So. Ooh, looks like we're, it's been a little while. It's been like, what, 2 days? 3 days. Ooh. Okay. I think, hopefully after today, I can just chill. Because I had to do both of those fucking video essays before the end of the month. I still need to hear back from the fucking advertising people about this next one. The next one's done. And it's monetizable, which is nice. Ooh, we love that. But I think after that, we can just chill. And I think I've realized why after doing both of like, if I'm not streaming in the last month, I've been making video essays. And I think the reason I prefer streaming, it's actually really simple, is that I can know more when I stream. Because if I do a bunch of research and I'm streaming, I can just talk about it. I can just learn and then say it, and then we're done. Then we've imparted the thing. If I make a fucking video essay, the thing I've learned has to get embedded into a script, structured, fucking edited, visualized, get past the community guidelines, and then once in a blue moon, no one watches the video. Why is your hair not floofy? Because it's wet. Because I showered before streaming. Did you see Bad Empanada fans spreading an image of a tweet of you going, "My father genocided Palestinians in Lebanon, the Zionists are right"? Yeah, of course, I saw that, yeah. It's like, whatever. Nothing makes me more confident in my positions than the fact that even my most obsessive critics have to just make shit up. It's like, okay, wow. Because I can quote these people directly to make them look stupid. They have to fabricate tweets. I don't know. These guys just love dead Arabs. They just love it. Because every dead Arab is another fucking grave for them to fucking bounce on and cheer at and use for fucking like grandstanding against their opponents. It's really, they love it. They love it when brown people get massacred. If I wanted to see your views on the conflict, what video should I watch? Probably. Probably just the live stuff. Or the most recent one I'm doing is like, I don't know, the most recent one I've done is about the history of Gaza. And I haven't, it's the history of Gaza, and I haven't given really any prescriptions in it. I've just told the history. I'd be interested to see how that's taken, though. I might do a little. I'm already anticipating this. I'm already anticipating that people will get mad that I didn't put any fucking moral prescriptions in this history video, and then I'll do a community post explaining my basic stance just in like a few paragraphs. That's probably that's probably how it'll go. Have you seen? No, I haven't. I've like flicked on and off of Destiny stuff, but I've been too busy doing editing stuff. So I think I was watching Destiny for like 5 minutes, and I heard him get stuck on a thing, so I just jumped in and told him what the thing was, and then left again. So yeah, I don't know. I'm probably gonna do the same now. Now that I've actually got the time, I'm probably gonna do some more reading. If I were smart, I do think you should put a conclusion into the newest video essay. Like what though? What the fuck? Like how should I summarize that? Like what? Oh, I'll end because you know the video, Maruti. Do I just get in the VC, right? what? Do I just end it and be like, also, settlements need to stop. They should recognize right of return. They probably won't do it by themselves. They probably need to get forced to by fucking BDS and a big daddy American president. Bye. Like, should I just soy rant right at the end? Like, God. Hello. Yeah, but they can't. Hang on. How about now?
Hello.
How'd it going?
Good. I'm just saying, you don't have to you just have to restate briefly, like, the purpose of the video. Because, like, the way you ended, it's just like, oh, he was talking about this, and now it's over.
So I I could. So I've got two things I could do. Right. One is I could be like, yeah, the Israeli position for the last 20 years has basically just been to tunnel vision about security, whereas Palestinian issues is just like, we'll just leave that for another day, you know? And that's clearly not worked. Something needs to change. The settlements need to stop. The right of return needs to be at least recognized so that it can be negotiated in the future. There needs to be some path to Palestinian statehood, whether that's in one state or two, whatever. Like, that is that really like does that tonally fit with the way that it ends? Like just after that bit?
No, so you don't, because you're like going into solutions. Like, you can even say something like, so I'm ending the video here. Like, I understand that I haven't presented solutions. That's because I don't really know. Like, that's a whole nother video essay
Okay.
where we can talk about solutions. I just wanted to like cover a brief history of how we got here. So I think that this video basically describes how we ended up in this situation.
Yeah, I feel like I say that in the beginning. Do I not say I'm just going to give you an impression of how we got here?
You do, but then you just like you just end it.
The end is just
Like
yeah, I don't
almost.
know. I thought it was maybe like I think I wanted to portray just how doomer I am about the whole thing, and I think it maybe does that. But yeah,
Yeah,
fuck
I
it.
mean, you could even say that in the conclusion. You could be like, I'm basically totally doomer pilled on this, and I
That's
don't think
probably
there'll ever be
right.
a resolution. Yeah. I don't know, just thoughts.
Okay. Um, I think I need to mention that like just because I say a historical fact, you shouldn't think that there's any like necessary prescription attached to it. I think that's a big problem because as soon as you mention like the fact that Jews were kicked out of Gaza, people who were in like 1929 after the riots, obviously pro-Israel people like hearing that because they hear that like violence went both ways before 48 and that they like hearing that. But then left-wingers will get upset because they think I'm implying that Jews have a claim on Gaza, right? Or like, yeah, I don't know. But it's like, yeah, just because you say a historical and so much of the partisanship is basically like two sides choosing their own collections of historical facts, and if you hear one person say one of them, it already implies they're on that side, right? Um, I think I need to mention that. I think I need to mention that, like, just because I say this thing happened, that doesn't mean necessarily this thing should happen now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would even just that would work as a conclusion.
Okay.
Just something to, like, show that, like, this is the end of the video. Because like, when I was watching it and it ended like that, I was kind of like, "Wait, did you like, is there more did he mean to end it here? Was this, like, an editing mistake?" Just something to, like, signify that that's actually where it's supposed to end.
Okay. Um, yeah, I might do like a credits roll while I just monologue at the end. Well, it's a fucking video, of course. It's a monologue. Okay. Okay. Thanks. Gotcha.
Okay, I'm hanging up.
Bye bye.
Bye. Oh, by the way, I
You what? You what? You failed? That's what I thought. Okay. I don't know what she was gonna say. I don't know what she was gonna say. Do you take criticism in your Patreon posts? Yeah. I take criticism for breakfast. I take criticism in my cornflakes. Yeah, I take criticism all fucking day. Well, yeah, go on. Jesus. It's a good video. You don't have to say free Palestine. I know what to say. I think I know what to do. I think I know what to do. It's all good. We'll get it out in a couple. We'll get it out probably tomorrow. Aye. Okay. What it Oh yeah, I was supposed to watch some video, some breadtube. Oh no. What was this? Why do I let's start with some, because I'm not gonna lie, I haven't read the news in the last 2 days, so I don't actually know. I don't actually know I don't know what the story is with the ground invasion. So we'll learn it together, guys. Don't worry. What's this? What is this? Israeli psyops like loner box. Okay. This video has 50 views. This is this breadtube subreddit now. Okay, 3 likes. Okay. Let's go. What's wrong? What'd I do?
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Welcome. Welcome everyone. I'm so fucking hilarious. I know.
I like his humor.
I'm so fucking hilarious. Who the fuck would put Michael Jackson the fish in the freezer?
This is why I'm not that afraid of being doxxed anymore, because these are the people who are like wishing death on me on Twitter and shit. What are they what are they gonna do?
Anyways, in this video we're gonna talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Yeah.
And specifically all the right-wing supremacists. That is all the PSYOP right-wingers that is trying to infiltrate the leftist discourse on the topic, on Israel-Palestine. Like Lonerbox, Destiny.
That's me.
And Dylan Burns, among
This person's
others,
a fan.
Who is like they have like infiltrated the left and
yes,
like gotten people to listen to them.
Yeah.
And then they make
Lonerbox, you smarmy cuck
and then they
bastard.
make most
To be fair, I'm infiltrating the fucking Zionist spheres as well now. I feel like at this point we've infiltrated more fucking Jews than we have Arabs, you know?
Arguments for Israel, but sometimes make arguments for Palestine to still appear leftist and pro-Palestine, but their psyops trying to ruin the discourse and trying to infiltrate the discourse. Get leftists that listen to them to inform them, give them bad arguments and bad like a bad perspective on the matter.
Oh no.
On the question. Like the notion that
Okay. So we're making pro-Israel points, but we sometimes make pro-Palestine points to appear leftist, and we're giving leftists bad arguments. And that's a psyop. Cool. Let's see. Let's go. Maybe we're doing that.
Israel should be able to respond appropriately. Like the notion that Israel should be able to respond when Hamas attacks Israel, but Hamas shouldn't be able to respond when Israel attacks Palestine. Like those sort of like the goal of Lonerbox.
I think it's the way you respond, Shirley. I think I've said for a long time that Palestinians are absolutely entitled to use some form of violence to win their freedom. Like, it's a fucking military occupation. It's not like they're out here just taking away their health insurance. You know, it's a bit. I feel like I've said that. I don't think that justifies the way Hamas does it, and also the violence that Hamas uses on their own guys as well, and fucking Gazans and Palestinians. But okay,
Isn't to make like factual arguments that make sense. The goal of people like Lonerbox and Destiny is for psyoping, like giving the left poor arguments
Okay.
and like, yeah, giving the left poor arguments. Anyways, let's get to the first tweet. So Lonerbox is replying to a tweet. Realistically speaking, the only way to destroy Hamas and to stop terrorism in Israel is to end the occupation of Palestine and to implement a one-state solution. If you actually care about Israeli lives and not the genocidal ambitions of the Israeli state, you realize that. And
I just the problem with this is one is it's very white. It's very it's actually incidentally it's a colonizer mindset that we're gonna to say that we just need to implement a one-state solution. Like what? Apparently against the will of basically everyone living there, right? Like one-state solution is there are more Palestinians who are against it than are in favor of it. Unless they're talking about like a maybe like a one-state solution that's just a Palestinian state and Jews don't like. But that's a bit different. Like I guess when they say this, if they say if you care about Israeli lives, they would mean like a binational one state. But yeah, I can maybe find the polling as well. Like one state solution is not that popular. Where is the? They just recently started favoring it over two-state, but I think the numbers are like 26%. I don't know, like that's why it's so white. I don't understand. It's so white. Just you need to understand that Palestinians don't really agree on all that much. The things that you'll get high numbers for are like they want Abbas to go. That's like basically all of them. They hate Abbas. I think majority of them want at least some kind of. They believe that violence is is like necessary for ending the occupation. Other things you'll get high numbers for are maybe like it's weird because although the one and two state solution both poll very low, things that are popular are just like ending settlements or ending the occupation even is like higher popularity because ending occupation doesn't necessarily mean one or two state solution. It just means like going on some path to self-determination with like whether that like what the final stage is kind of like indeterminate. Recognizing the right of return is something that they're quite that is quite popular, but just saying implement a one state solution, it's like okay,
then
thanks. I guess like
replies with so according to a mangled radioactive online imagination, what we have here is clearly someone saying Israel should turn off the Iron Dome immediately, throw down their arms and just stop Hamas and then PIJ or chill about it. So, but what
didn't that Washington Institute show like 60% support? It showed 50. But again, I don't know how that poll was presented. I think it might have been like a binary between Hamas's position and the two-state. Maybe. But generally when you poll across Gaza and the West Bank, like asking that question is just kind of meaningless. Like maybe they want it to be the position of their leadership so that they can like be in a better bargaining position. But like it's just difficult to. Anyway, sorry. Wait.
Hamas wouldn't PIJ or chill about it.
This tweet is like I signed it saying bad faith Twitter box just trying it on because I was being bad faith like this WAP goblin person is. I was just doing like a parody, like a reverse parody. Okay, did you miss that? Okay.
So immediately throw down their arms and just stop Hamas and PIJ or chill about it. So, but what does he want then? Does he want Hamas to just throw down their arms and hope Israel or chill about it? What Israel is doing with their arms is killing Palestinian civilians. So does he want Hamas to kill civilian?
Oh, they're running with it.
To kill civilians then. Like he's indirectly arguing for the terrorist attack that Hamas did. Like what is Israel using the Iron Dome and their arms for? And if he doesn't want them to drop their arms And
I
that's
think they're using the Iron Dome to stop the rockets, because if they didn't, they would get hit by 2,000 rockets. Okay.
and wants them to use their arms. Like, why would they otherwise need? Why would they otherwise need their arms and Iron Dome if they wouldn't use them? And what do they use them for? Exactly. So then Hamas shouldn't be.
Does this person not know that like there's Hezbollah saying death to Israel with 150,000 rockets at the north? And that Hamas just fired two. Do you think if the Iron Dome was turned off, then the rockets would be like, oh no, wait, these rockets might actually do a lot of damage to these people that we want to kill. Oh no, let's just okay, wait, no, it might be a bit overboard to. Okay, why am I watching this? What the fuck? Like, I guess it's a good reminder every now and then because this is because I get a lot of shit on Twitter, but like I just know that this is basically the fucking level of critique I'm getting from pretty much all of them. I don't know, these fucking people, like these people can't explain their way out of a fucking paper bag. Like, anyway. Sorry, I'm not gonna. Whatever. All the best to them. Fuck's sake. I used to think alt-left was a meme. The more I see this shit, the more I believe it's actually becoming a thing. Bro. I saw this the other day, or today.
This Destiny guy has to be a psyop. There's like literally no other explanation.
The psyop thing as well is just so revealing because you have to understand the mindset of someone who sees these positions like that aren't theirs and assumes it has to be a psyop. It's just their way of saying that like you have to be so dogmatically convinced of your position that people who have something even rhetorically different or just like slightly different, that they have to be doing it in bad faith. That's a very like dangerous way to think about things. It's really weird.
Without fail, every time Hassan does anything, he like literally this was within 2 minutes. He responds. It's crazy. He's like, oh, I don't cover the breaking news when Hassan was like, doing stuff about Gaza, right?
Like what's your point, Des?
Why do people TikTok like this? Why do I need to see your fucking floating dipshit head like, hey, this guy, this piece of shit, I can't believe this kind of psyop behavior. This guy's unhinged. Why do I need to see this? It's so annoying. Like, fuck.
Destiny.
Actually, Hassan has said he doesn't cover breaking news.
He really does just like consume all of your thoughts. It's so fun. It's so weird. It's so weird. This is every Destiny fan. They'll like literally watch a hospital get bombed and be like,
A hospital get bombed? How old is this fucking video? Do they not know? This guy has to just be fucking around, bro. He just watched a hospital get direct hit, blowing the fuck up. What the fuck?
and be like, I'm not sure if that was actually true or not. I'll need a source for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it turns out we did need a source because the hospital didn't get fucking bombed, dipshit. We have no evidence of that.
Like, this is a psyop. It has to be. He's like designed. He's the centrist designed in a lab. I need time to gather all the facts. Dude, do you know how quick this kind of thing happens? It's like we don't have time to like. He's a plant.
We don't have time to get. Bro, when did this happen? Okay, when did the fucking like stuck up whatever like standard American dude bro frat boy dipshit? When did they get fucking?
Lonerbox.
When did they become the
Smarmy
host
cuck
to-
bastard.
to like dogmatic fucking communism? When did that happen? When did they all turn into socialists? What happened there? Bruh, we don't have time for your fucking research, Mr. Scientist. Jesus Christ. Bro, I remember, I'll keep saying it, I remember being 20, 21, 22 years old, the year 2012, 13, I was the only socialist in my class on a fucking sociology course, okay? I was on my own out there. I was going to these fucking little free Palestine events in one of the rooms that they booked out, and like 12 people turn up, and there's a Palestinian woman, like activist, who's there speaking Arabic, and the fucking translator like can't understand half the things that she's saying. And we tried anyway. We just sat there really patiently letting this translator just try her best to translate this Palestinian woman who fucking flew over here to tell us about what's going on and shit. A fucking Israeli woman as well who like joined the left like to give us a talk as well. And now, and those people were fucking reasonable. Those people were chill. What happened? I was a socialist before it was cool. Fucking unironically, I'm sorry. I didn't ask for this. I'm just telling you the facts. If that makes you uncomfortable, okay? The only explanation I can really think of is that when I was a socialist and I was hanging out with the fucking other rejects who were also socialists, we were watching like lecturers, you know? We were watching like fucking David Harvey videos, or like, I guess like Zizek or whoever, some of these people like that. Like, we were watching people like that. Who are the other names? Alex Kalinikos was the guy that I used to watch. And they were a bit kooky sometimes. But they were pretty like, they were sensible. They were operating on the same planet. But I guess now they're all watching Second Thought or like Hassan streams, and this is what you get. You're not a socialist anymore, Lonerbox. I am, okay? I just don't but I think the problem, Vivian, maybe... Oh, Vivian, come Discord, Vivian, Discord. I'll maybe just start speaking anyway. Tariq Ali, yeah. But the way I always understood it was that I think it's a difference between like American and European socialists. I think I may be becoming more convinced of that. Maybe. Oh, shit. Sorry, did I not give you the role?
Maybe you did. I don't know. I don't think I've ever come on your stream. Have I come on your stream before? I can't.
Yeah.
Fuck no. Okay. Well, hi. What's going on?
Hi. So here's my quick theory, okay? I
Hi.
all tended to understand from like identifying as a socialist since I was like fucking 18 or some shit, right? Was that socialism in Europe went through like the revisionist period, right? Where they basically believed that what they were going to push for was not going to be like anti-liberal in a sense. Like, it wasn't going to be like we're going to forego liberal values and just pursue the end of class struggle by any means necessary, right? So we're still going to be pro-human rights. We're not going to fucking like use like violence against civilians. We're not going to like forcibly expropriate people and all that shit. It was more about like using the liberal democracy state to transition in a way or to move in a direction that gives more discretion and more power to the workers over bosses. So that would be things like co-ops, maybe even some people have argued that sovereign wealth funds can be part of that, decommodification in the way of like socializing services and shit like that. That's what I understood it as, like reformism. Like, but it seems to be that Americans never went through that phase. So socialism just becomes this like incoherent blob of like some Bernie Sanders talking points on one hand, like democratic socialism, and on the other, just like filling all the gaps with weird Marxist-Leninist tanky shit.
Well, America has the same kind of problem we do, except we had the Labour Party for a good amount of time, right?
Yeah.
Like the Labour Party pre-Blair was basically what you're talking about. But like the United States had McCarthyism and the Red Scare and all that shit, and a whole bunch of professors basically being handed out of their jobs or possibly even arrested for daring to say the word socialism in class. So you've got a whole bunch of people who are just now engaging with socialism, or like just now trying to work out what the fuck it even means, right?
Yeah, I guess that's why it's so I'm not going to say a slur. I'm sorry. It's just bad. It's just not good. I don't know.
Americans are big dumb. What are you gonna do? Like, they-
Yeah, I don't
I'm
like.
always slagging off Americans, but to be fair, they laugh at us all the time with the Britbonger nonsense. You get to sort of sidestep it a little bit, being Scottish, but
Mm.
Scotland's still part of Britain, so I feel like you should stand side by side with me against the Yankoids and call them fucking idiots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they really. It's just. I don't know. I mean, it's probably becoming a problem in Europe as well, because I've noticed a lot of socialist parties are kind of going into a much more populist direction. Like Mélenchon in France did that. I think Corbyn is kind of always been like that a bit, like with his Ukraine stances and shit. But I don't know. Compared to the online sphere, it's like I don't know. Like this online sphere that calls itself socialist. I feel like I identify with some of it, but most of it, I don't. Like, do you?
You know, I tried joining Discord for a socialist party or whatever that was trying to get themselves started in the UK. And they said they were gonna they would stand for some council elections probably, but broadly they were against electoralism. And I was like, what the fuck is the point of you then? I'm just gonna I'm not gonna bother with you now. Um and I think you're right that there's just like there's a lot of fucking LARPers, Letterbox. That's what it is, right? There's a lot of LARPers who like want everybody to think that they've read State and Revolution,
Mm.
and want to be like the most socialists of all. And like, I don't know, people always shit on me because I'm an anarchist, right? But
Yeah.
like, I do not. I don't have this sort of like weird utopian vision of some weird like, oh, everybody's gonna fucking rise up one day and we're gonna overthrow the government and create a like. I'm not fucking stupid, and I feel like a lot of people are really fucking stupid. I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know I'm rambling a bit, but like, yeah, there's definitely a section of the left that I feel really disconnected from, and the Israel-Palestine stuff has really kind of cranked that up as well. Because in the beginning, I was like, oh well, you know, it's just idiots, or it's just, or it's tankies, right? And I can understand idiots, and I can understand tankies. What I can't fucking understand is, like they were sharing around that Judith Butler clip recently, you know?
What the Hamas and Hezbollah are like left wing.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, so there is more context to that quote that sort of ameliorates it slightly, but it's still very bad. Like, it's still very dumb. It's still a very poor fucking analysis. Like, even back in 2006 when she said it, like, they were still a pretty hard right theocratic organization, you know? And it blows my fucking mind how stupid and how simple people have been on a lot of these things.
Yeah, I think what was the context? What did she say that makes it like less I feel like I can imagine something in my head, but what did you actually say?
Oh God. She said no, I can't. I'll end up misquoting her. You know, fucking Judith Butler, right? Like, she never
Yeah.
speaks in fucking easily understandable English.
I can imagine it being something like there's two ways I can imagine it. One would be because they challenge American hegemony. That's probably like the dumb way to put it. Maybe a more nuanced way could be that, like, at the end of the day, I don't really like the terminology for Israel and like calling it like settler colonialism, because I think it's just very different from like your standard settler colony, but they still do it, right? They do settlements, they've done occupation, they've done invasions and shit like that. And I guess in 2006, when they were invading Lebanon and still disputing territory with Hezbollah, like, I guess there are some people who said that Hezbollah, although they're really shit, is they also have had like elements that left-wing parties in Lebanon weren't able to address, like the poverty and the lack of welfare and the discrimination against Shia Muslims is one, and also the fact that they literally kicked out a foreign invader. So maybe is that I don't know, but still, that's a stretch.
it was shorter than that, but it was basically. It was more about resistance to Israeli settler colonialism and the broader right-wing imperialist fucking movement, you know? It was something like that. I want to find it. Like, there's a full video, but yeah, like I said, Judith Butler doesn't talk English, so
True.
I don't know if have you ever read what's the fucking thing? Gender
Gender Trouble or something.
Gender Trouble. There we go. Have you
No,
ever
but
read that?
I've read an interview with her about it. I did I understood what she meant by performance theory. I got that.
Oh yeah,
It
yeah,
made
yeah,
sense to
yeah.
me, yeah.
I'm just saying the book itself is fucking impenetrable.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bother.
Like-
Never.
I have read it, but I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I understood even 50% of it, because it's just stuck in the most ridiculously dense academic terms.
Yeah. Oh well. All right, I'm gonna get back to this horse shit. What, do you have anything else to say?
Do I have anything else to say?
Any other memes?
Free Palestine.
Whoa. Okay, take care.
I know, it's mad. All right,
Yeah.
peace.
Bye bye.
He has to be.
Oh, okay. This is my favorite bit. It's just
But I'll need a source for that. And like, this is a psyop. It has to be. He's like designed. He's the centrist designed in a lab. I need time to gather all the facts, dude. Do you know how quick this kind of thing happens? It's like we don't have time to like. He's a.
he's like doing a parody of himself. Bruh, we don't have fucking time for your Mr. Scientist. He's like, he reminds me of there's sketches. It feels like it was like a really common thing in the 90s or the 2000s in these action films where there's this hot-headed fucking bullhawk general who's like just wants to, we're gonna take them all out, we're gonna smoke them out, and then there's a guy in the back in a suit and tie being like, I think we really need to consider the long-term effects of such aggressive action. He's like, I don't have time for your on the one hand this, on the one hand that, Mr. Scientist. Yeah, that's this guy. Holy shit. Anyway. Is it Team America? Yeah. This guy just watched a hospital get blown up, dude. We didn't have time to. Okay. You're saying Destiny's research is making him pro-Israel. Okay. In what manner? Like in the I don't know.
Trey Yanks.
What the fuck? This is Fox News. No, Fox News got people demonetized apparently. No, I'm not watching it. We don't have time for that. That's brilliant, bro. I wonder, people who have watched the Dustin research streams. I was going to say, fuck. Okay, let's go back to where I was starting because I started somewhere. I was going to talk about. I'm going to do some more reading, probably starting at some point this week. I think if I was a disciplined person, is I would read all the wikis and then get a skeleton and then read academic papers to add some flesh to the bone. But I can't fuck reading all the Wikipedias. They're so boring. I'm okay. I'd actually prefer to just have some blind spots than read all the wikis. But I want to read some papers and a couple of books and just fill things out. What I want to read, and maybe the Dustin viewers can tell me if this was covered. Did anyone ever cover or did Dustin ever go over did he ever talk about the proposed one-state solution in the 20s? Did he ever talk about that in like 1924? That I think a couple of Zionists were in favor of, but it was ultimately shot down. Does anyone know about that? I didn't know about that until recently. This is the one that the Zionists rejected, right? People say yes, people say no. He talked about it a lot. What, really? The one with fucking Kaplansky. That Ben Gurion was like, no. Why are some people saying no, but some people are saying yes? Okay. Is that the white paper? No. Okay. Okay, I hope you guys know I'm being specific here, right? Because there were like 6 or 7 solutions offered. There were a lot of solutions offered, motherfucker. Like, don't just hear me mention one and be like, oh, that sounds like the white Churchill paper of 22. No, there were papers proposed all the way from the early 20s into the fucking late 30s and early, like, there was a lot proposed, okay? But I'm talking specifically before the white paper. I'm talking about the British trying to treat Palestine not as a colony, but as its own country that they were in charge of, right? Oh my god. It was the one that was going to be the 2 national assemblies. One would be Arab, and the other would be 50-50 Arab and Jew. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. Yeah, Arabs and Jews. That one. Did that ever come up? And the Arabs at first were like, no, but then they were like, oh, wait, there's going to be a lot more Jews immigrating here in the next couple of years, so we should say yes. And then they said yes, but then the Zionists said no, because Ben Gurion shut it down. And then after that, it was all like partition. So that would have been like a binational, like almost like Lebanon style one state. Yeah, this one. The parity proposal in 1924. No, but yes. Well, it was more like no, then yes. And the Zionists were like, some of them were saying yes, but then they were ultimately shot down and they said no. So the idea that there was a one-state solution proposed in 1924, and it was ultimately shot down by Ben Gurion. I want to read about that one. This is 8 pages long, so maybe we'll go through that after the news. No, he didn't. I typed what he's been reviewing above if you want to know. Started in 35, found out there was a massacre in 29. So he's going back to review 1888 to 1935. Okay. Yeah, I guess the big point of contention that I've noticed especially from reading Pape, is that there's a big contention over the idea that the Zionists were never actually willing to accept the UN partition, and since at least 1937 were showing signs of intent to get rid of the Arab population and to take over militarily as much as they could. That's one of the contentions as to what extent that was the case. And also, I guess the contention about, was that Jabotinsky's plan? Yeah. I think, actually, I don't know, because I think Jabotinsky is earlier. That's 22. And then I guess in 48, the contention that Plan Dalit was like a military, was for military necessity. It allowed them to have a military advantage, especially from the Tel Aviv-Jerusalem corridor. And the other side of it, which was that it was a deliberate plan to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians and to take over as much land as they could through the cover of war, basically. Benny Morris never saw that as a thing, did he? The thing with Benny Morris is, as a historian, as far as I know, his facts and all that are like his work is good, okay? That's what I've used Benny Morris's research to make pro-Palestinian arguments. Even Deir Yassin. There are like some very pro-Israel people who will say that Deir Yassin was like, not that it was a battle, not a massacre. Even I use Benny Morris's research to say that it to show that it absolutely was a massacre. There's no reason to believe that it was like a fucking fair battle. Yeah, that resulted in 100 fucking villagers dying. So That's one. I think with Benny Morris, the problem with him is that people anticipated his work so much with that book because in 2004, I think or 4, 5, 6, he published a book called The Birth of the Palestinian Refugee Problem. And for explaining what happened, it gives you a lot of information that you can't really get anywhere else because he went like pretty deep into military archives and like he used Zionist military archives to show their crimes, basically. He stuck very firmly to the Zionist military archives and still showed that they'd done loads of war crimes. And that number, 750,000, that mostly comes from Benny Morris. We also know from Benny Morris that only 6 villages were evacuated because of radio broadcasts from the Arabs. Because the Israeli line before the 80s, at least, was that the Arabs left because they were told to by other Arab countries. So we know that, but people were anticipating this book for a while. But at the very end, when he comes to the bit, apparently when he's asked who's to blame for the Palestinian refugee problem, and I think he just completely cops out and says the war was to blame. And I'm like, bro. So that's a problem. And it's also because we know that he has a very political lean in favor of Israel. Yeah. But, yeah. That's my gist. The problem wasn't them leaving, it was them not being allowed back. No, the problem is also them leaving. I agree that, yeah, the fact that they didn't allow them back is like the big fucking, that's like the kill shot. But how they left as well is like, we know that most of them were either forced out or they fled because they knew what was happening to other villagers who were being forced out. Like they knew about massacres. Or because in South Israel, the IDF's campaign was to fucking airstrike and do strafing maneuvers on these villages that didn't even have like shelters. They had no experience of dealing with airstrikes. So yeah, of course they were going to flee. And they did. They fled to Gaza. There are some papers that Israel doesn't declassify. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. The problem with Ilan Pappé, though, is all of his quotes from Ben Gurion that apparently show him having like ethnic cleansing intent, even in the 30s, are all just like a quarter of a sentence. And I don't trust that. I don't trust that at all. And it's very hard to verify them. And I know that at least one of them is like it's just out of context. Like it's just not saying what apparently Pape said it says. So I'll be careful with that as well. I'll maybe look more into that's what I want to look into mostly. I want to look at Plan Dale and Ben Gurion's intentions before the war. Is that a Baczynski painting behind you? Yeah, yeah. Can you replace Peter Thatchell as the cis guy who speaks about trans people on the TV and debate Helen Joyce? Yeah, Helen Joyce. Isn't she like the one who sues people for defamation all the time? Okay. Wait, did Keffels talk to Destiny? What's this? Keffels shows Destiny second thoughts. Communist. Oh, is he just watching a video? Yeah. In DMs. Oh, well, whatever. Okay, news. Fuck. He mentioned they talked in DMs. That's cute. I thought Keffels' videos on this have been quite good, actually. We watched one earlier on in the war, and there was actually learned a couple of things as well, like the polling data and stuff like that. The editing's really good as well. Like she sources stuff like in the stream segment, which is really good. Because I'm always quite bad with that. Ground battles intensify. Okay. This was from yesterday. BBC News. Kefil sounds like a cereal brand. I suppose it does. All right, let's go.
Israeli commanders have been deployed all over Gaza as the bombardment continues. Hamas says its fighters are involved in clashes with Israeli forces. The Hamas-run health ministry estimates at least 400 Palestinian civilians were killed overnight. Aid agencies say they've lost contact with their workers after all phone and internet services were cut.
Heavy artillery is pounding Gaza constantly. The Israelis say they're making the earth shake.
Wow.
And as residents of one of Gaza City's refugee camps inspected what had happened in the night, that was how it felt. It's like an earthquake, said Al-Ahmadi. No one's paying us attention. It's an execution. Many Palestinians believe Israel wants to force them out of Gaza, and they interpret it as a threat.
Did you cover the 500 number from the hospital being mistranslated? I saw something, I saw an article suggesting that, yeah, that they'd mistranslated 500 victims to 500 deaths. I guess that's just another reason why you shouldn't go with the immediate headline. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the press failed on that. But wait, Hamas still said that Israel did the bombing, right? And Hamas also still said that, didn't they change it to 471 deaths? That wasn't mistranslated. And they also said that it was an Israeli bomb that they had evidence of. They had pieces of the bomb. But then later, like a few days later, they said that it disintegrated. I'm like, fuck off.
Threat, not a warning, when Israel's army tells them again to move south from places like this. As for the Israeli people, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a solemn warning.
The war inside the Gaza Strip will be difficult and long, and we are prepared for it. This is our second war of independence. We will fight for the defense of the homeland.
In Sderot, the Israeli town closest to Gaza, the streets where Hamas killed civilians and soldiers 3 weeks ago today are deserted. The danger didn't stop Zila Cohen and her son driving down here to bring a picnic to her daughters who are doing their military service. They sat down in a car park not far from the border wire. The war, they said, was about survival. Hamas had shown it wanted to force them out. You can hear the war. Aren't you scared?
I'm scared, but if my daughter...
The thing about the fragment wasn't the health ministry? No, I think it was. I thought they said that they have evidence, but they haven't produced it. No, I don't think it was the health minister. I think it was Hamas, right? But again, the health minister is from Hamas. The health minister is in the Hamas cabinet.
They're here, so I go where she's here.
And you bring lunch.
Yes, to all the soldiers.
You know, when you live side by side with people, and you come to understand that you cannot trust them. So what you do? What the answer for that? What any other nation would have done? Much more that we are doing right now, and I'm assuring you, much more that we will ever do.
The new phase of Israel's assault started last night with dozens of airstrikes. Israel believes overwhelming military strength can...
It's still hospitals. I know, that's why people are saying that because the 471 number was bullshit, that we shouldn't trust any numbers. No, like the numbers are verified by other people as well. And they are from officials who are, like, just being a doctor doesn't really mean you're part of Hamas, right? If you're a doctor, even though you're under the Gazan health ministry. I haven't said that, though. I haven't said the other, like the actual standard death count is dubious. So, God damn it.
Pacify Gaza. But military power alone has never brought lasting quiet, let alone peace, in this conflict's long history. Israel claimed one of its strikes killed a senior Hamas commander. Israeli tanks and soldiers moved forward into the north of the Gaza Strip.
Jesus.
Gaza's visible from a hill in Sderot. Israel will resist pressure for a ceasefire. And there's another factor. The more Palestinians that Israel kills, especially civilians.
What is the actual death count of the hospital? I think it's ranged between, depending on which international officials you ask, it's ranged between like 50 and 300. So yeah, I don't know. That was the last thing I saw. I don't know if there's actually been a better estimate yet.
The greater the levels of anger and outrage elsewhere in the Middle East, among Israel's friends as well as its enemies. Now, that doesn't guarantee that the war would spread, but it does increase levels of anger and volatility in a part of the world that is already very fragile.
We don't have
Israel's
time for
ground war
facts,
has
bro.
started. Containing it here is now the biggest political and diplomatic challenge in the world. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News in southern Israel.
In Gaza itself, most people are now unreachable. The UN says that ambulances and civil defence teams are no longer able to locate the injured. After the communications blackout in Gaza, our correspondent Rushdie Abu Alouf was finally able to get through to us. He said the north of the territory surrounding Gaza City was hit overnight on a scale we've never seen before. He sent us this report from the southern city of Khan Yunis.
You know, communication is very, very difficult in Gaza since 24 hours as Israel cut all of the communication. Mobile carrier, the two main mobile carriers are not functioning. The internet lines are not functioning in everywhere, and getting information is really hard and difficult. Very few people who are still having internet.
Why the focus on this one hospital? Because the reporting on it was one of the worst practices of journalism I think I've ever seen. That's why.
National SIM cards, and they can do roaming using Israeli mobile services. People who are close to the border, they still can communicate, and between time to time they post some on social media. They also, some of the local radio.
Do you think the plan is to relocate Gaza to Egypt? So I saw there was a piece advocating for that. Was it, people are saying it was like the Israeli government. Was it the government or was it a think tank? I think it was a think tank that said that, wasn't it? Noah Smith. It wasn't Noah Smith. A minor think tank. Yeah. But some people are saying the Israeli Ministry of Intelligence said it, which is not, but okay, wait. No, it's a think tank. Yeah, it's a think tank. Is the Newsline a trustworthy magazine? I don't know, fucking... I'll think of that after.
Station are still functioning, and they were able to talk to their correspondent in the north, who described what happened last night as the biggest ever airstrike that targeted this area. He said that it was like an earthquake. We understand that the Indonesian hospital was struck with an airstrike yesterday. The hospital was out of service for quite a long time, like a week ago. The hospital was out of service because of no fuel and was evacuated. But today it was, the main building of the hospital was destroyed. Also around Shifa Hospital in Gaza City, there was a lot of airstrikes, 10, 15 airstrikes according to people around Shifa Hospital. They are cutting most of the roads towards that hospital. Communication, as I said, is extremely difficult. We are unable to verify a lot of reports about the number of people dead or injured, but as far as the health ministry was doing a press conference this afternoon, they said about 400 people were killed overnight, but they said hundreds other are missing under the collapsed building in the north.
The BBC's Rushdie Abu Alouf reporting there.
Do you think any country on earth who suffered an attack like October 7th would go softer on Hamas? Again, it's like comparing the refugee standards of every country, right? Like it can also be the case that every country is quite shit on a thing. Like maybe not, but I'm still going to say that doesn't mean you can't hold them to a higher standard. For example, I was doing a bit of research on Israel's past with Hamas, and we know in the 2008 war that they did violate the Geneva Convention in quite a few different ways. They were reckless in a lot of their strikes, which is why they took out a fucking that sewage treatment plant that had like no military use whatsoever, not even any discernible use. We also know that roof knocking. We haven't heard that much about roof knocking in this war, when they drop like a weak explosive on top of a target as a way of telling the civilians to get out, and then they drop the real one. Apparently that technique is completely is basically useless. Like it's just really ineffective. Because when there are explosions going off all the way around, apparently roof knocking just feels like kind of like normal. It just feels like about the same as an explosion that happens next to you or around you, and all it seems to do is like confuse the people inside. So yeah, I think that's why they don't do it anymore, because it just like there were too many investigations that just found like it didn't really have that much benefit. Same with the leaflets as well, because their obligation is to give warning, but it seems a lot of their ways of giving warning are not that good. Like leafleting isn't very good either, it turns out. In the past, it hasn't been, because the leaflets have often been criticized for being a bit unclear and not very reassuring. So, yeah. What's a better way of getting what compared to roof knocking? Phone calls, messages. I think leaflets that are worded properly are deemed okay, I think. Yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah, I can't watch Fox News. Fuck. They do. I know. But that's why I said roof knocking. I just said roof knocking is not a very good method. Okay, stay on topic. I'm just saying, and they've been criticized in the past. I don't know if this is still the case, but in the past they were criticized for their warnings on leaflets and messages being too unclear, so that they couldn't qualify as proper warnings. They stopped roof knocking. Yeah, because they're just apparently it's just not very good. That's why we haven't. Yeah. Anyway, why can't they do door knocking instead? What? Just shoot like a little bomb at the door. Listen, I'll think about it. I'll consider the pros and cons. Okay. Israel says it has hit 600 Hamas targets in the last 24 hours.
People are living in the ruins in Gaza. The Israelis insist that they hit Hamas targets who use civilians as human shields.
Human shields.
America said it had sent Israel another reminder that Hamas are legitimate military targets and civilians are not.
Wow.
In Gaza, the UN fears civil order is breaking down. Its food warehouses in the south were looted. The desperation comes from Israel's siege, which the UN says violates the laws of war because it's a collective punishment of civilians. Thousands of people ransacked the warehouses. Israel says there's no food shortage in Gaza. He's saying we have no flour, no water, not even toilets. Our houses were destroyed. No one cares about us.
Is there any point in UN votes? So my understanding, and I could be wrong, the impression I had of UN votes is that if a country gets shafted in a UN vote, they apparently, if a country looks really bad in a UN vote, is it can really damage their international reputation, and having a bad international reputation is bad for like foreign investment, like things like that, so, or deals with governments. So the idea that people are more reluctant to invest in a state that is kind of like a pariah state or considered a bit of an outcast in the international community. So that's why if there's like a settlement vote and it's like every country on earth says settlements are bad apart from Israel, like even if the United States said it was bad, then Israel might lose like foreign investment and have troubles doing deals with other countries. But yeah.
Appeal to the people of the world. The big powers are against us. We need aid. We wouldn't have done this if we weren't in need.
We need fresh water. We need food. We are starving. This is totally unfair. Our children can't sleep.
Further north in Gaza City, after patients and staff refused Israel's order to evacuate Al-Quds Hospital, the wards filled with smoke as buildings nearby were hit. Only a few miles away in Sderot, the closest Israeli town to Gaza, a sense of grim determination has replaced the panic of the first few days after the Hamas attacks. Eyal Hashbi, Sderot's head of security, said his nephew and some of his team were killed by Hamas. A visiting general, Nimrod Aloni, was greeted like a man back from the dead. On the 7th of October, Hamas made the false claim that they'd captured Aloni and taken him into Gaza. Hashbi said they were all still trying to process the horror of what happened. The security chief took me on a tour of Sderot's defenses. Hamas, he said, had hit them hard.
Yeah, this was just not the guy in his pants. This guy in the underwear who was being dragged out like first thing in the morning. They said he was a general, but he was actually a commander. Yeah, Mr. Nimrod.
Had to change, and if Palestinian civilians suffered, it was not Israel's fault.
Oh yeah, gotta remind them of that.
We allowed them to come work in Israel.
Yeah, apparently he wasn't actually abducted. Okay.
We thought this would help the ordinary people of Gaza. We thought a good economy would bring some peace, but now we know that only security brings peace. But after 20 rounds of war with Hamas and Islamic Jihad, this needs to be a story that ends here.
God damn it, I just reported fake news. Nimrod was not kidnapped, guys. Chat, just so you know, Nimrod was not kidnapped. Okay, there we go.
Our eyes were closed, he said, and we lost everything.
That was like the first
Israel's
day.
dead are still being identified.
I know.
Hashbi says he can't face any more funerals. Night and day, Israel's ground war to destroy Hamas gathers pace. It is reverberating around the region. The risks of a wider Middle East war remain. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News in southern Israel.
We're live now to speak to Tommaso Della Longa from the Red Cross, joining us from Geneva. Thank you and welcome to the...
Security makes peace like work makes freedom. I wouldn't use that analogy, but yeah, that's been the Israeli line for 20 years. It's like security, 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 security. It's like, of course, it hasn't fucking worked. Look what it happened. That's why Bibi Netanyahu, Mr. Security, is now standing over the biggest security failure in Israeli history. Depends on the method of security. No, because the people who preach security more than anyone else are the right wingers, right? And the right wingers are the ones who exercise fucking, who act with impunity towards Palestinians and just keep on saying, like, we just need to be stronger, we just need to expand more settlements, we just need to assert ourselves, assert dominance, and all that. And then all you do is you just make Palestinians more angry, you create more security threats, you stretch your security too thin, and then you get 2000 and, yeah, it's just stupid, yeah. Because again, the root of the problem is not security. The reason you have a security problem is because there's a Palestinian population that has been in limbo for 75 years, and you're doing things that make it worse. Like that, anyway. Yeah.
programme. First off, I wonder if you could just confirm whether you've been able to... We have had that communications blackout for a time over the weekend.
Wait, so work isn't vital? Sure, work makes freedom is like... work makes freedom is the sign on top of Auschwitz. That's what he's referring to. I don't... Damn.
Have you re-established...
Isn't it? Is it Arbeit macht frei? Like... Oh, okay. Sorry.
established communications with your team on the ground?
I just watched a documentary on that yesterday. I think I want to do that. I want to watch more documentaries in my spare time because these history ones are actually really good. Holy shit. These free history documentaries on YouTube they're good. They get like actual fucking high profile big guns historians to tell you what's what about what's going on in the documentary and shit. Yeah, it's good. What's the which one did you watch? Oh god, it was the concentration camp one. Which one was it called? What the fuck was it called? Oh god, I've forgotten. Oh no. Is it in my history? I don't know if it is. I forgot. It was just good though. It had like Richard Evans in it and shit. Yeah. I think I want to watch this one. Apparently this one's good. How did Britain start the conflict? That's apparently quite a good one. I don't know. Oh, was it the other one I was watching this today. I watched this in the morning. It's on my laptop, so it's not going to be in my browser history. I watched this as well, The Third Reich in color. These documentaries are so interesting because like you see it all in color. It looks very recent and shit. And it's so much of The Third Reich in color is just fucking Ava Braun, Hitler's mistress, filming them planning war crimes in the Obersalzberg, like over this really scenic fucking getaway with a view over the mountains in the German countryside. So much of the documentary is just her either openly or even sometimes secretly filming the top Nazi guys just having their meetings where they discuss the rape of Czechoslovakia and shit. It's like, and the documentary, the voiceover every now and then is just like, this is Adolf Hitler with his confidant Jürgen von Strupenwaffen. They are discussing. This is von Strupenwaffen playing with his 2 5-year-old children. Earlier this morning, he ordered the murder of 200,000 Jews. It's like, it's so eerie. But it's like the whole thing is just like that. It's like these two guys chilling on a balcony, and then the voiceover guy is just like, what they're discussing right now is the plans to occupy Czechoslovakia with the kill lists of the intellectuals and Jews. Like, what the fuck, man? Yeah.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me today. Yes, we reestablished communication yesterday, early in the morning, around 4 a.m. Our time, but still is not a stable communication, and it's still a challenge to talk with teams in the Gaza Strip. The most worrying part of the communication blackout was that people were not able to reach the emergency medical service to call the ambulance. So what we heard from Palestine Red Crescent colleagues is that they were mainly following the noise of bombardment to arrive in the area and try to find injured people, which of course is pretty risky.
And once they'd located those injured who needed your help, what resources do you have to hand? Are they adequate?
Not at all. I mean, the resources are absolutely limited and are running out, I would say, minute after minute. I mean, we saw it in our hospital, the Al-Quds Hospital in Gaza City, but also in the other health facilities. The stories are telling us that shelves are empty, medical equipments are not anymore there. And then we don't have to forget the stress on the medical personnel. They are working 24/7 in the last more than 2 weeks without any shift, and also being affected themselves.
What can you tell us about Al-Quds Hospital?
Al-Quds Hospital is fully crowded of patients injured and more than 10,000 people who sought refuge in the hospital because they thought that was the safest place where to stay in Gaza City. The situation, of course, is out of control in the sense that it's a health structure where people are living in the corridors, in the stairs, outside and inside, plus 500 patients that are receiving life-saving care. I'm talking about intensive care units, babies in incubators, people who need oxygen. And now the issue are mainly two. One is the evacuation order that arrived yesterday, which we are deeply concerned about, because with this situation, there is no possibility to evacuate patients. And then second, lack of medical equipment, but also lack of fuel. Electricity will run out soon, and Palestine Red Crescent colleagues already cut air conditioning, the lifts, and other part of the building doesn't get any more electricity to save fuel. But of course, this is a situation that sooner or later will arrive at the end. And of course, this is.
So what does the Red Cross make of Israel saying that there will need to be an evacuation of Al-Quds? What's your position, the organization's position on that warning?
Well, I mean, we were clear yesterday, this is not possible. This is not possible. Hospitals must be protected in any condition, and no nurse, no doctor, no patient should risk to die in a bed of a hospital. And then also, this is the impossible dilemma that no doctor or nurse should face. Leave the hospital to seek safety, but leaving their patients behind, or stay in the hospital risking their lives. Palestine Red Crescent teams have said it clearly, they will stay with their patients.
Tommaso, obviously you're in Geneva, but I'm assuming you speak to your volunteers and your staff. Have they ever reported any intimidation from members of Hamas in organisations or in buildings such as hospitals? Have they encountered that?
To my knowledge, I never heard about these stories.
So what is going to be your position next in terms of those bombardments have come closer and closer to your hospital, well, Al-Quds Hospital and Al-Shifa Hospital? What's going to happen next? What have you got in place?
Well, I mean, what we are doing, of course, is calling on all the parties and having a bilateral conversation with different stakeholders to avoid that hospitals will become a target, so to protect as much as possible the hospital. And we are strengthening all our efforts to get humanitarian aid in from the southern border. Then, of course, we do hope that these two, I mean, the combination between the two, so let's say diplomacy in closed door.
If NATO countries parked hospital ships off the coast for Palestinians so the hospitals could be evacuated, would Hamas attack them? I think the fear there is that Hamas would try to get into the fucking ships. I don't know. I have no idea why they can't do that.
Condition and bringing humanitarian inside the Gaza Strip will help our colleagues in the hospital and around the Gaza Strip.
Now, we understand that there were some 33, 36 possibly trucks that were allowed into the Gaza Strip. There is the hope that there will be more coming in. 12 trucks, I understand, were carrying medical supplies. Médecins Sans Frontières has said that they've sent 26 tons of medical supplies to Egypt, hoping to get those into Gaza. How closely do you coordinate with those trucks coming in?
Well, I mean, the coordination is made logistically wise by the Egyptian Red Crescent on the Egyptian side and Palestine Red Crescent together with the UN on the Palestine side. The problem here is that these trucks and this humanitarian aid needs to enter 24/7 in the Rafah border, through the Rafah border. We need to have a continuous flow of humanitarian aid. 10 trucks a day, 30 trucks another day are just drops in the ocean. And this is why we are really calling on all the parties to make this sustainable in the mid and long term, but also to create a safe humanitarian space inside the Gaza Strip. To do our work, we need safety, and civilians need safety to get the humanitarian aid that they much needed.
Okay, Tommaso Della Longo of the Red Cross speaking to us today from Geneva. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you think about the line from the river to the sea being anti-Semitic? I think people saying that like right after the Hamas attack was kind of fucking stupid because it did sound very supportive of Hamas's version of it, which is anti-Semitic, but I don't know if it is inherently. Because when progressives say it, they just want to do their fucking binational democratic one state, even if Palestinians don't necessarily agree with it. Like, yeah, I think that, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's inherently anti-Semitic now. This was the documentary I was talking about that I watched last night. Where the fuck? Yeah, this one. No, not that one. This one. Revealing the horrors of the Holocaust beyond the myth, episode 5. They get like historians to talk about it, and they have like interviews with just like with the survivors as well as the guards as well, like some of the guards who joined the SS when they were like fucking 18 and shit. Yeah, and they do this thing, like I love this editing thing that they do where they have you this old building where plans were made.
From the Ravensbrück concentration camp is the SS.
Ravensbrück was the camp where for women, with women prisoners and all women guards. And it was where Himmler, I think he did this for a few camps, he would even give kind of like arbitrary guidelines or rules for how much torture was acceptable, to the point that it was like, he would say, if for the women who were getting beaten up in Ravensbrück, he said that you could only give like an arbitrary number of lashes when they were getting beaten up, like, or whipped and shit. Yeah. And he would sometimes change it just for like, I guess for the joys. Yeah, I don't know.
Clinic.
But they do this editing thing.
The head doctor here is called Karl Gebhardt.
Like, look at that.
Die heutige Generation, sie trägt Deutschlands Schicksal.
Like, how cool is that fucking editing technique? What the fuck? There's the building, and then
Gebhardt.
Guy was out for a wee walk.
Die heutige Generation, sie trägt Deutschlands Schicksal.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, chills, I know. Would Egypt ever let women and children temporarily until the ground incursion is over? No, I don't think so. When Palestinians say it, they mean no Israel. Yeah. Yeah, they do, yeah. The bitch of Belsengard, she was wild. I don't know that much about her. Oh. Apparently that festival lady was found beheaded. According to Israel, you know, maybe they actually kept her alive and were nice to her with the broken legs. I don't know. Ooh. Do you think Israel is committing genocide? I don't think we've seen evidence of that yet. No, they could be, but we haven't seen. You'd need to show the intent, right? And I don't think badly worded or like weirdly worded tweets necessarily are enough for that. I'm not going to have the genocide discussion though. It just ruins people's brains. The problem with genocide is that I've noticed now that when people say genocide, they're just saying it because it's just like an event where a lot of people die and it makes them angry. And they just want to call it like, they just want to express it in the most fucking poetically effective way. That's it. I don't think anyone cares really that much about the definition or the case law or like the meaning of each term or the context behind the word. Yeah, I don't know. And then when you say it's not a genocide, people assume that you're saying it's actually okay, which is not true either. Like there are things that are not genocides that are worse than some genocides, right? Even if you think the Holodomor wasn't a genocide, well, it it was worse than most genocides. It killed a lot more people than most recognized genocides have. So, yeah. Ugh. Was the Armenian genocide real? Yeah. Because we know that the intention of the death marches was to get them killed, yeah. It wasn't just like, yeah. Don't ask Jenk. What? Oh, okay. Wait, we gotta focus. Focus. I want to read about this because there is that think tank that called for ethnic cleansing. Let's learn about them and see what they had to say. Fucking weirdos. All right. Where is it? You see, Leftovers has been suspended. Yeah, we might watch some Piers Morgan shit or whatever. Yeah. Think tank, ethnic cleansing. Would you classify it as an ethnic cleansing? We won't know unless they don't let them back, right? Because if they let the displaced people back, of course it's not ethnic cleansing, yeah? What's the difference between genocide and ethnic cleansing? The intention of genocide, genocide needs to be intentional, premeditated, trying to kill like X group of people, either in whole or in part. So if a massacre happens in the process of ethnic cleansing is trying to remove them. So let's say, and part of ethnic cleansing is massacres, because a good way to get people to move is by killing a bunch of them, right? So it's even to the point where, and again, that's from fucking Pape. You can read that in this book when he talks about ethnic cleansing. Even in an ethnic cleansing, if people get massacred in an ethnic cleansing as part of the process of moving the broader group out, that's not a genocidal massacre. That's different. Because the intentions are different and the goal is different and the premeditation is different. That's why, yeah, it's like the intentionality matters, basically. So even Pape won't say what happened. He says what happened in 48 was an ethnic cleansing, but it's not, he wouldn't call it genocide. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, where was this article? Holy shit. It was from that weird source that I didn't recognize. Bruh. Let me read some donos. When is your vid going to be available? Oh, I have to do the advertisement today. I'll probably have the video out tomorrow. Oh, and I probably need to do a new ending because everyone hates my ending. Fucking twats. All right. Hardcore Val, thanks for the $5. Really appreciate that. The Pippo King returns. Really, yeah, thank you very much. Grayson M with a tier 2 sub. Thank you very much. Well, Butrin Warlock with the $4.99. I really appreciate that. I'm doing a paper on BDS for grad school, and it's insane how much legislation is trying to shut it down in the US and abroad. Yeah, it's really bad. It's anti-free speech. It's like, yeah, it's just authority. Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah. I think PAL Legal are a good group for combating BDS stuff. Anti-BDS legislation. Marutsi with the $5. TikTok is indeed the Florida of social media platforms. Yeah. OMW with a tier 2 sub. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Was the Hamas attack a genocide? So there was an orders leaflet found on the bodies of one of the Hamas attackers that said, basically it said kill as many people as possible. And you combine that with their charter and their rhetoric, it could potentially be a genocide, yeah. Or, yeah, potentially. I don't know if that's necessarily enough for a genocide, but like it did say kill as many people as possible, right? That was from the one that we even got a fucking Arabic person on to read the text, and I also got my dad to read it, and they got the same results, so yeah. Could be, as in there might be an argument that it's not, because I don't know all the case law of genocide, but it, like, I don't know if it necessarily, there might be a reason that I haven't heard of that means it's not, so. Sorry, excuse me for qualifying my thoughts. Bro, we can't just wait for the facts. Shut fuck off. Why do they always have papers to tell them what to do? Because you can't intercept a paper. That's why. Stop asking me about every fucking genocide. Oh my god, I hate you guys so much. You always make me talk about this stuff. I should just ignore it. Just like, stop. Stop. All right. As the Middle East reels, a new option takes shape. Expulsion. Years of careful diplomacy have been overturned by the current wave of violence, forcing the major powers in the region and beyond to look for new policies. however extreme. Where does crimes against humanity fall into that definition? You know, I'm not actually too sure. I think Bucha has been accused of that. Probably because they haven't found orders of people actually saying, go and kill a bunch of Ukrainians. Like, take them all out. Like, it didn't seem like it was planned because they just left the bodies out in the street. That probably is. Like a massacre. Ethnic cleansing counts as a crime against humanity. That's what it comes under. Anyway, if we are talking about the idea of forced migration, the Negev desert in Israel is there. Okay. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi was speaking at a press conference with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz this week, addressing a proposal that, to the alarm of both Arab leaders and their publics, has been reportedly and increasingly floated in the run-up to Israel's expected ground offensive into the Gaza Strip. The idea, which has gone through multiple iterations over the decades since Israel's founding, by turns illegal, unworkable, or extreme, posits the wholesale population transfer of Gazans into the Sinai. In earlier versions of the proposal, which has rarely been taken seriously, Egypt would directly administer the Gaza Strip itself. Whoa. The idea has long been a non-starter for Arabs, adding a couple of million people living in the most impoverished and brutalized part of the region to Egypt is replete with economic, logistical, and security challenges in the vast, ungovernable expanse of the Sinai. But it also guarantees the permanent displacement of Gaza's population, who are unlikely ever to return home. Egypt, under successive governments, has been aware of that particular danger, which is why Sisi warned this week that any displacement of Palestinians from their land would be followed by the displacement of Palestinians from the West Bank into Jordan. What is happening now in Gaza is an attempt to push citizens to seek refuge and migrate to Egypt, he said. The war in Gaza has now continued for 2 weeks and only appears to be growing more complex. The frantic diplomacy of American, Arab, and European leaders is part of an attempt to find alternative solutions to a ground invasion by Israel that could escalate into a regional war. The idea of expelling the Palestinians from Gaza is clearly one such proposal. Another, reportedly raised in talks between President Joe Biden and his Israeli counterparts, and which was going to be a subject of discussion in a now scrapped summit with the Egyptians and Jordanians, was for Hamas itself to be relocated, much like Arafat's PLO, which was exiled to Tunisia for years. These are extreme suggestions, but they have come about because of a desperation with both within and beyond the region for new ideas, after so many decades shaped by the same thinking. After all, it was that thinking that led to this war. Despite the long-standing prima facie rejection by the Arab world of the idea of expulsion, this solution is apparently increasingly seen as more feasible than asking Israel to conduct its upcoming war on the Strip with a judicious amount of violence, or to figure out a way to actually coexist with the Palestinians. It has been floated by European and Israeli officials without irony, which likely prompted Sisi's response, as well as off-the-record comments by Egyptian and Arab officials to the media, pointing out the double standard of feigning concern for the human rights of Palestinians while orchestrating a plan to deport them en masse under pain of death. The idea has yet to be taken up publicly by the US as a potential way forward and has prompted a search for alternative creative solutions that could eliminate the need for a ground offensive. Yet, it is now the mainstream and a subject of open debate because of the intractable nature of the conflict and the politics of Israel's ruling coalition. Just this week, a right-wing Israeli think tank headed by the country's former national security advisor published a report on various scenarios for the future of Gaza, including a detailed plan for the expulsion of the Palestinian population into Egypt. This wasn't the proposal that Sisi was responding to, but the appearance of the paper demonstrates that consideration of such a scenario isn't relegated to the fringes of Israel's security establishment. A right-wing think tank headed by the country's former security advisor. Headed by the country's former national security. How common is this? So I know politicians will say crazy shit when they're out of office and then not do it when they're in office. But like, It's not a small think tank, though, is it? If that's the case. It's just not government policy, but eek. I mean, I did say that. I did say fucking, we know full well that there are plenty of people in Israel who would like to do that. I said, I called that right at the beginning, okay? I knew. That's one thing I concluded without any evidence. We don't have time for research. We know. I knew that. It's allowed sometimes if you know what the fuck you're talking about. In the paper by the Jerusalem-based Misgav Institute for Zionist Strategy and National Security, only one suggestion for a post-Hamas future is deemed viable for Israel's long-term security: the transfer of the population the transfer of the Gaza population to Sinai or other countries. The author of the report, research fellow Raphael Ben-Levi, concedes that this is a radical option and controversial. He then lays out how the international community... Yeah, it is controversial, isn't it? Damn. Even he knows. He then lays out how the international community, particularly the US, Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar, would work with Israel to assist in the wholesale transfer of 2 million people. Ben-Levi says Washington can play a crucial role by pressuring these countries to either contribute resources or take in displaced Palestinians themselves. Although international law says forced displacement of civilians is a war crime, Ben-Levi argues that transferring the Gazans to Sinai could be legally justified as self-defense in a time of war. Okay, listen, I've not been in charge of any think tank. This is not true. It's not true. No. I don't think it could be legally justified, no. We can go into the nuances if you want. Hey, I guess that's my thing, right? Is I'll take the difficult. Listen, yeah, this is the Boner Box Institute for takes that the internet doesn't let you explore. Okay, the Boner Box Institute for brain damaged, get me clip chimped fucking takes. We can go into the discussion of how some ethnic cleansings, even in the mainstream, are considered justified. We can get into that if you want. Like Richard Evans, not very extreme historian. He's quite left wing, but he's not extreme. He believes that the ethnic cleansing, the removal of German settlers from Eastern Europe after World War II, was justified. He'll say that, and like any reasonable person would say, is like the way they did it was inexcusable because they just fucking killed a bunch of people and also just forced the other ones out with no food and water. And like, yeah, it was really, a lot of people died. But the reasoning for doing it was that Germany had used the presence of those settlers to justify annexing, like, and invading Czechoslovakia and Poland and shit. And they were worried that those settlers could be used as justification for future acts of aggression. And that's one part of it. The other part of it is that those Sudeten Germans had no loyalty. They had no intention of cooperating with newly independent states like Czechoslovakia and Poland. Like they were really, really politically hostile. They were like very radical. So in the long term, it just made sense to have them go back to Germany. And they had a place to go. The removal of settlers from Gaza. I think the ethnic cleansing definition is loose enough that you could put it on there if you wanted to. But again, they shouldn't have been there. The settlers should not have been there. They shouldn't have been in Gaza. They were there illegally. So that was justified as well. So you can call it ethnic cleansing, but it doesn't mean it was necessarily bad. You can just say it was a good ethnic cleansing, a justified one, not good. I would say, but justified. My great grandparents were Sudeten Deutsch. Wow. There's probably, if Ukraine regains Crimea, there will be a serious discussion about whether it's okay to allow Crimea to stay majority Russian. You know that, right? Like, to have Crimea being 60% Russian, and if Russia is still a state with military capacity next door, it's going to be a discussion of whether or not it would be better to put those settlers back into Russia. It's not going to be just like off the table, but yeah. So those are 3 examples I can think of. When people talk about it for people who live in Israel, though, I guess that's like the tanky thing, is that people who live in Israel would also be qualified for that. That's insane, because they don't have other places to go for the most part. Like, they've been born and grown up in Israel. That's like, yeah, that's a bit different. The settler population in the West Bank, well, listen, those guys are pretty wacky, okay? An independent West Bank with those guys living there, they wouldn't even want that. I think they would volunteer for ethnic cleansing, most of them. But anyway. And the outposters, I don't care. I don't care if they get dragged kicking and screaming by the IDF. Fuck those guys, fucking losers. The Mizgav think tank is not very well known in Israel and was founded around a decade ago to provide a more hawkish stance in Israel's policy community, said Yehuda Mirsky, a professor at Brandeis University and former U.S. State Department official. Even though Mirsky emphasized that Mizgav cannot speak for Israel's military establishment, the fact that it is headed by Mir Ben-Shabbat, the former national security advisor who was instrumental in normalizing relations among Israel, Bahrain, and the UAE in 2020, gives it weight. Yeah, I guess it does. Yeah. I don't know if it gives it that much weight because, again, I think when politicians retire and a lot of them go into think tanks and just do this radical shit, like, how much impact do they really have? I don't think they have that much, right? I don't know. But still, I did say that this was what some people would like. I did say that. Such a plan would have a major flaw from Israel's perspective. It would place large numbers of Palestinians beyond the control and surveillance of Israel. Depending on who eventually came to run such an enclave, it could either give the Palestinian Authority the ability to control a population in a foreign country or see the rise of a new group. Both, from an Israeli security standpoint, would be immensely problematic. Over the years, Israelis have tried various options to manage the Palestinian, quote, problem. Whoa. Expulsion, although mooted by only a minor think tank, reflects a strand of thinking within Israel's military establishment that externalizing the problem may solve it. Even Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, speaking earlier today, said at the end of the Gaza conflict that he wanted the removal of Israel's responsibility for day-to-day life in the Gaza Strip and the creation of a new security reality, although without specifying how that would come about. Do you think Israel has offered any good peace plans? No. Not that maybe I could go deeper into some of them, but no. For the reasons you said, yeah. Harsh with borders or taking important war sources for Palestine, yeah. When you read, you have a newscaster voice. Is that good? During Israel's creation in 1948, Zionist militia groups and the Israeli army that grew out of them followed a blueprint called Plan Dalet, known as Plan D. Officially adopted on March 10, 1948, it identified specific Palestinian cities and towns to be targeted and provided instructions for how to expel their inhabitants. An internal Israeli military intelligence document reveals that at least 75% of the Palestinians who fled did so as a result of military actions by Zionist militias, psychological campaigns aimed at frightening Arabs into leaving, and dozens of direct expulsions, scholars Joel Benin and Lisa Hajar wrote. Whoa. 75%. At least. Wham bam. I think also that doesn't imply that 25% left of their own accord. That doesn't imply the other 25% is all that. A big percentage of the leftovers here, we just don't know. Some villages, we just don't know why they were evacuated. So, yeah, just so you guys know. Because the number of people who left of their own accord or because of fucking radio broadcast, we know that that number is actually very low. I think there were a couple of, maybe like a dozen villages that were evacuated because the Egyptians told them to. Like they came in and said sleep. I don't know if that's, I haven't looked too far into that though. But it's a small number anyway. It won't be 25%. Indeed, shortly after 1948, a plan to resettle Palestinians in the Sinai was tried. As the journalist Jonathan Adler has discussed in an essay for New Lines, in the early 50s, the United Nations hatched a plan to resettle tens of thousands of Palestinians into the Sinai. What the fuck? I didn't know that. Thereby eliminating the Palestinian right of return. It ultimately failed because, as Adler writes, the 55 uprising in Gaza, what would become known as the March Intifada, forced UN officials to abandon refugee resettlement projects and recognize Palestinian claims to political identity of their own. I didn't know this. I just did a fucking video about Gaza. I didn't know the 55 uprising. I don't think I've seen that come up very often. Is that like a very well-known thing? The March Intifada. That's not in any of the books that I've read about it. But this isn't even the right thing. This is not Gaza. Okay. That's Bahrain. There's not even a wiki about it. Oh. PalQuest. Communists and Islamists opposing the UN Egyptian plan to transfer refugees in the Gaza Strip to the northwestern Sinai Desert. Oh. It's pronounced Gaza. I know. Fuck off. Maybe I'll incorporate this because I don't have to finish my video yet. Damn, nice one. Based. We do a bit of research on stream. Islamo-Leftist Alliance. Do you have Arab origins? Yeah, I'm Lebanese. Stealing ideas. Why am I stealing? Fuck off. I'm just going to put it in my Google Doc so I don't forget. Very good. Very good. Gaza notes. Sorry, Gaza notes. It's not even an A, it's like eh. Gaza. Okay. These ideas are part of a sudden realignment across the region as years of careful diplomacy have been appended. Powerful players like Iran, and Saudi Arabia have been forced to pivot their policies to adapt. The October 7th attack just put aside all the rules of engagement and changed the whole situation in the Middle East, says Ali Hashim, a journalist for Al Jazeera English, in an interview from southern Lebanon on today's podcast. While Hashim doesn't believe Iran had detailed knowledge of the attack, he says the Iranian leadership will recognize that the complete destruction of Hamas is, ultimately, a challenge to Iranian power, and thus may be forced to enter the fight. Sorry, it's Iran. Fuck off. Do you speak Lebanese? No, I don't. I think they'd prefer not to get into such a fight and continue accumulating power, stockpiling weapons, and not getting into this now, or at least choosing the right time by themselves, he says. But the fact is that to Iran and to Hezbollah, if Israel is to annihilate Hamas and take Gaza, then they are going to be next on the list. That in itself means that, shall I just try to Arabic pronounce every fucking word? Okay. I'm just going to think about how my dad says it. That in itself means that a long ground assault will make it more likely that Hezbollah enters the fray by opening a second front in the north. The justification for such an escalation would be the same one the Iranians used in 2012-2013, as they tried to further their intervention in Syria. The Iranian supreme leader then said, "We're fighting in Aleppo and Mosul so that we don't fight in that place." Perhaps no country in the region has had its carefully laid plans so upended by this round of violence as Saudi Arabia, which appeared to be on a path to normalization with Israel, although the timeline was ambiguous. Eugh. Turki al-Faisal, the kingdom's former intelligence chief, expressed some of this frustration earlier this week at a speech in Texas, when he condemned Hamas for sabotaging the attempt of Saudi Arabia to reach a peaceful resolution to the plight of the Palestinian people. Sorry, the Philistine people. Sorry, whoa. But speaking on New Lines podcast, okay, a fellow at Lancaster University's Richardson Institute says that while he does not believe Hamas's goal in launching its attack was to undermine the normalization process, there will inevitably be a delay, even if only in the short term. I think the Saudi perception of Israel... I can't do it, sorry. It's just... I don't even think Israelis call it Hamas. I think Arabs just call it Hamas. Don't they? I'm trying to think. Yeah. The Israeli pronunciation has the hack, not the Arab one, yeah. I think Saudi perception of Israel and Saudi perception of what a lack of a Palestinian state could mean for regional stability is going to be reconsidered a lot, he says. Saudi Arabia has long said there needs to be genuine development towards Palestinian statehood, but that many analysts disregard this as rhetoric. I think people seem to just not really care what Saudi says about the Palestinians. They say, oh, Saudis don't really care about them. Let's focus on what Saudi Arabia is saying to Israel. And then my response to them is, listen, you can't look at one without the other. 2 weeks on from Hamas' surprise attack on the 50th anniversary of the 1973 war, in the midst of vast uncertainty about what the next days and weeks will bring, all those with interest in the region are looking for alternatives to a regional war and wondering what the Middle East will look like at the end of it. Okay, nice one. Gotcha. Well, yeah, so that think tank's fucking crazy. Whether or not they have any impact on the government is probably, they probably don't, but still concerning that people who used to have power believe that. Wow, crazy. Still pretty bad. Fuck, man. Oh. Wow, chat. Okay. Oh, finally, the advertisers got back to me. That's cool. So I can just... Probably not a very long stream today because I still have a video to finish and I can get it done for tomorrow. Whoop. Whoop. So I need to incorporate the fucking 55 riots. And I need to incorporate an ending where I say, I haven't done any prescriptions in this video. Sorry. Fuck you. Okay. Video about what? About Gaza. About the history of Gaza. God, I'm so authentic. I'm such an authentic brown person. Let's see. Fuck me. Whoop. Have you ever eaten haggis mixed with couscous? Absolutely not. You're a punk. A punk. Do you think the Gaza hospital death miscount casts doubt over the death toll? Why or why not? I'm assuming you mean the full death toll, because the full death toll, as far as I know, is actually corroborated by people who might be under Hamas, but they still are able to verify with other, because there are other organizations there. It's not just the health ministry. It's counting the dead. And it's not like Hamas, like the health ministers announcing all the deaths. It's like it's coming from people beneath them. So I think there's a degree of independence there. There's a check and balance. But thanks for the £5. Really appreciate that. It's hard to believe the death toll in Gaza is that low. It's easy to believe if you just get rid of the assumption that Israel is trying to kill as many civilians as possible. If you just drop the genocide opinion, then it actually makes sense that they've fired more shots than people have died. Yeah. Still, I won't be surprised. I'm not going to be surprised in the slightest if they're held up for like recklessness and collective punishment and all this other shit afterwards. Probably by a big criminal court essay about it that never actually gets actioned. Who? Can you elaborate? Who's helping to count the death count? I thought there was like the Red Cross, like Red Crescent, are also involved in that, or there was another fucking agency I read about that wasn't. It was like European, but I can't remember its name. Okay. What else am I watching? Should I watch a Piers Morgan thing? Hutch wants to chat. Oh yeah, whoops. I'll get back to him on Twitter. Take calls. That really a good idea? It's the worst idea I've ever heard. Where was he? Twitter. He tagged me, didn't he? Mentions. Verified? Is he verified? Oh no. I'm not going to find it. Oop. Be way down here, buried in all the fucking bullshit. Oh, I'll just DM him. Is UNRWA involved in counting the dead? I don't know. Hey, noticed your tweet. Of course. Jesse Irwin, thanks for the 10 Canadian. I've been reading that book you recommended, 100 Years War in Palestine. It makes a sus claim that during the 6 Days War, Egypt wasn't going to attack and Israel knew this. Is this a common take? Depends on how he worded it. I think there is a take that's quite reasonable that the Soviet warnings to Egypt were false intelligence. And it seems to have been possible that it seems to be the case that it was possible that they could have tried to mediate and act with restraint while they tried to reach a resolution because Egypt was acting on false information. Yeah, I think that's I think it's true that the 6-Day War was not a war of no choice. I think that's true, but might want to double check because I don't know that much about the 6 Day War. Ooh. Okay. I have to do a lot of reading as well, guys. Okay, chill. Piers Morgan. Who's Piers Morgan been talking? Let's see. He seems to claim Nasir never had any intent to invade and doesn't mention the Soviet stuff. I've always heard otherwise, and it confused me. Yeah, that's why there's so much contention over the 6 Day War, and I just don't. Palestinian Israeli. Okay. So Piers Morgan has on a Palestinian and an Israeli woman. This one. Is it this one? I refuse to talk to genocide deniers. No. No. Can you read it to us on stream? No. Watch this video. I will never watch a video to learn about a thing. No. Good. Is it this one? Is this the one that's interesting? It doesn't sound interesting with this fucking title. Jank in the thumbnail. He looks amazing. Which one are we talking about? Is this the one you were telling me to watch, David? How is Pierce the only one doing these interviews? Fuck it, let's see. This is gonna make me so mad.
Welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. I'm joined by my pack now, the founder of Within Our Lifetime, Nadine Kiswani, and the broadcaster and journalist Emily Austin. Okay, Emily, what did you make of that exchange I just had with Loki?
Yeah, so apparently both of these guys. Oh god, Loki.
You smarmy cuck.
I don't think I want to watch the Loki interview. Loki's a dipshit. Anyway, apparently these two people are propagandists. Okay.
I just dislike how you ask a clear-cut question and the question never seems to be addressed on any of your interviews, quite frankly. It seems like they use the airtime as an opportunity to deny
Oh, Josh CFC from earlier. Thanks for the tier 2 sub for a month now. Wow, thank you so much.
the question and just spread their own narrative, and it just it's pointless. The debate is pointless. It's a one-sided conversation, and there's no actual conversation. It's, here's my question. Oh, but what about this pin?
Right. I mean, Nadine, my problem with it was I've interviewed some pro-Palestinian voices in the last 2 weeks who were emphatic immediately. Let me make it clear. What happened on October the 7th was a disgusting terrorist attack, an abomination. And then they go on to talk about the plight of the Palestinian people and maybe the historical conflict and so on. And I have great respect for people that do that. I've got to say, I really struggle with anyone who just cannot have the humanity to start by saying what happened on October the 7th was appalling, an outrage.
Condemn it, yeah.
Do you feel it was?
Okay,
I think Palestinians are tired of that being the starting point constantly, when right now there are 6,000 Palestinians who have been killed in Gaza, over 2,500 of them children, 33 mosques leveled, hospitals leveled. So we're tired of that being the main goal of the conversation.
It's not the main goal.
Part of it.
It's the starting point of this war. Yeah, but hang on. It's the starting point of this war. It's not the main goal of what I want the conversation to be.
The starting point was when 750,000 Palestinians were ethnically cleansed, were expelled from their homelands during the Nakba, which my grandparents fled Palestine because of the Nakba, because of the massacres and the rapes that they heard. So to me, that's the starting point. That's my experience.
Let's go with that for a minute. Let's start with the Nakba, because the only Nakba is the part that people forget to address. 1948, after the partition plan, the Jewish state called in the Arabs to live prosperously and peacefully in the land. But what happened the very next day, not even 24 hours later, is the alleged Nakba, where the Arab Leagues declared...
So again, there were already massacres and people fleeing in the hundreds of thousands before this declaration. Fuck.
war on the Jewish state, that we just agreed to have our two-state solution. And what did they tell their people? Leave the state. Let us get the land back. Let's ethnically cleanse the Jewish people. And once we defeat them in this war, you will come back to the land. So the only Nakba was a catastrophe that you guys, the Arab Leagues...
Okay, oh God, it's just such an easy question now. Just say, okay, why didn't they let them back then? Most of these people who fled were fucking villagers and civilians. Why don't they just let them back?
Waged a war that you could not win, and that is why, I'm sorry, your grandparents had to leave their homes.
That's completely ahistorical. I don't represent the Arab League. I'm Palestinian, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Palestinians.
Why do you find it hard to just start, given this war, this latest war that's erupted?
She should have used more space there. This person just said like 4 fucking things that you could have easily shot down. She got a monologue better. Sore Throat, thanks for the tier 1 sub.
Began with a terror attack on October the 7th. Why is it hard to not just say that was terrible?
I don't see you asking Regev if he condemned the slaughter of innocent civilians.
You can't do it, can you?
No, she can't, because she's the same woman who said every Zionist before they die should hear pop, pop before they die. So she probably agrees with the massacre, so why would she condemn them?
Bro.
I think the media is part of manufacturing consent.
We're talking about you.
I'm speaking here, and I'm not interested in speaking to genocide deniers. The media is manufacturing consent for genocide against the Palestinian people, just like they did with the lie of the weapons of mass destruction that was used to justify the murder of over 1 million Iraqis. And there's been many lies that have been repeated all over the news, including on your show, where CNN had to rescind, and even you said in subsequent interviews about the 40 beheaded babies. I haven't seen a single shred of evidence. I have not seen a single shred of evidence about these accusations coming out.
I was
on
actually
October 7th.
deliberately misquoted. You raised an interesting point there about this issue of the beheaded babies.
Wait, I thought he was going to show evidence. I thought he was going to do the streamer context. Okay.
The October 7th terrorist attack. I was accused by Bassem Youssef of saying on air that 40 babies had been beheaded. I never said that. I said there were reports that 40 babies had been killed and that some had been beheaded. That appears to have been borne out by other reporting, but I haven't seen the full details of every single casualty, so I don't know for sure. I certainly never said 40 babies were beheaded, but that clip has gone around the world and I've been bombarded with abuse based on an absolute lie.
I don't see a big difference between saying...
I will say, when you're a big team, I understand it probably does feel quite sore when that happens, but like, or annoying, but like, no one cares. You're a fucking big TV presenter and shit. Like, don't make it about you, Pierce. God damn it.
40 babies were beheaded versus maybe, 40
some. You don't think there's between 40 and some?
Because at the same, that's the lie that's being used to kill 6,000 Palestinians in Gaza right now.
Okay, well, let me ask Emily. All right, let me ask Emily this question. I've asked Nadine, can she say she was horrified by what happened on
She
October?
wasn't.
And she will not say that, which I think is very disappointing. Would you, in return, when you look at what's been happening in Gaza in the last 2 weeks, do you find that appalling, that the loss of young lives, of babies, of children, of women?
I think it's a tragedy that Hamas are using them as human shields. Yeah.
Innocent people who had nothing to do with the terror attacks.
Well, yeah, why won't they talk about the Nakba? Because she said like 4 fucking things about the Nakba that were wrong. Why doesn't the Palestinian lady like go a shot at that? I don't know.
Absolutely, 100%. Any death of innocent civilians should be condemned privately and publicly, and I cannot believe I have to say that. So yes, every children that is being collateral damage, every woman that's becoming collateral damage, my heart aches for them.
Why can't you do that?
I think we all agree that the loss of innocent life is sad, but I believe that the loss of innocent life wouldn't be an issue.
It's okay
if
when
Israel
it's the
didn't
Jews.
ethnically cleanse Palestine to begin with in 1948.
Well, they didn't, and that's
that is the source of this. To me, I go to the source of the issue.
But
what happened on October 7th isn't the beginning of what Palestinians
But had you asked me, okay, but Nadine, ask me.
That's not the starting point.
Why don't you ask me what do I think of that? You have a lot of preconceived views of what you think I think. I agree with you. I think the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in 1948 is the root cause of all of this.
Well, you can thank the Arab Leagues for declaring war on the two-state solution.
There are
They had it right
myriad
in front of
people
them.
at fault in the next 70 years.
We were ethnically cleansed from our land. It's
Why?
not like Jewish people were ethnically
Why?
cleansed from the land of Palestine.
was the
They
catalyst?
colonized it from other
Why?
people.
But here's
I'm
my-
actually discussing with him. I refuse to speak to genocide deniers.
Well, that-
I refuse
why
to
they
speak
were
She's
to
ethnically
genocide
not a
deniers.
genocide denier. She's
Do you
not.
know the definition of a genocide?
No, I do know the definition of a
What is it?
genocide. Gaza currently is a concentration camp because the Palestinians.
You think Hamas wait?
Oh no. Shit. The Zionist is a loner box viewer. Oh no, she's weaponizing my nuance. That piece of shit. She should have listened when I also said the Nakba was an ethnic cleansing, eh? God damn it. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm a psyop, giving people bad argument.
Is genocide.
I believe that. Look at the numbers. Look at the Palestinians who have been killed.
Hamas's stated
We're not here to talk
purpose
about any
is
specific
to eradicate
entities.
the Jewish people. It's their stated purpose.
The first thing that we should be fighting
that's
for
literally
is for
genocide.
Palestinians to be returned home to their homeland.
that is
Then we can
literally
talk about the specifics of
Hamas's
political
stated.
entities.
Didn't the Romans ethnically cleanse Jews from Israel? They took away some, yeah. They took away quite a few of them. Again, you can even say Gaza had Jewish people in the 20s, and it was forcibly evacuated by the British because of rioting and massacres. Hebron was cleared of Jewish people because of the riots and the massacres. Fucking East Jerusalem was cleared of its Jewish population, the Jewish quarter destroyed. Again, that's not the argument, though. The argument is that for Jewish people who were forced out of their lands, their refugee crisis was solved. They have a place to live now. It's called Israel and other countries that they have citizenship in. There aren't fucking refugee camps of millions of fucking Jews kicking around with nowhere to go for the last 70 years. It's the difference. So, yeah. Yeah.
Purpose is literally the definition of genocide. It's wiping out people based
the
on their
hostages who were released had otherwise to say.
Oh, the
as
2
we've
out
seen
of
in
250.
the
Let's applaud Hamas. You can't. Okay.
The hostages that Israel didn't even want to take to begin with. They didn't even want to take them back.
But they did take them. The Palestinians need to divorce themselves
as they bomb Gaza, risking their own hostages.
I'm going to keep speaking.
They don't care about killing.
Palestine needs to be liberated from Hamas, because when your governing body is a terrorist organization, that is the root of the problem, not the alleged ethnic cleansing.
The ethnic cleansing of Palestine happened decades before Hamas was even created.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that Hamas should stay in power in Gaza?
I'm not here to talk about political organizations. No, I don't care about these questions because my people are being ethnically cleansed. Because I see the faces of 2,500 Palestinian children on social media every day, charred, mutilated, having chemical weapons against them. So this is going to be my priority on this show, just like any Palestinian around the world is speaking up for our cause.
You will also
stop using babies as human shields. Stop.
It's the most densely populated region in the world.
Yeah, but you will also know
2.3 million Palestinians.
Let me respond.
Half of them are homeless.
Let me respond to you.
This is a ridiculous argument.
My question.
Smugbug, thanks to the tier 2 sub. Welcome. Been a while since I've seen you kicking around these parts. Wait, I'm curious. I hope this didn't happen. I hope I didn't have to. I didn't say this, but I thought it would go with us. So let me see.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Oh, look at that. I was worried that I was going to see a bunch of fucking abusive comments and dislikes on this guy's video, but he actually got nothing. That's good. Well done, guys. Well done. Well done, toxic boxers. Well done. Because I don't think that poor dipshit deserves that.
The question is whether you think it is good for the Palestinian people that Hamas stay in charge, given the scale of the terror attacks they carried out, given the inevitable response.
You're just lazy.
Come from Israel, with the inevitable loss of Palestinian lives, given the displacement now of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians out of the north of Gaza into the south, and who knows what's going to happen. The devastation to Gaza and to Gazan people has been unbelievable, and yet entirely predictable once Hamas decided to carry out the terror attack on the scale they did. I simply ask you, do you think that's a good thing for Palestine?
Is it not predictable that there will continue to be resistance to oppression as long as apartheid, occupation, ethnic cleansing, genocide continues to exist? Whether Hamas exists or not is an irrelevant question, because as long as oppression against the Palestinian people exists, we will continue.
How can you end that oppression as you see it? And many would agree with you.
Why don't we address the oppression first? She called Israel an apartheid state, so I'd like to just define what apartheid is. It is segregation, like what South Africa is facing, but the alleged apartheid is because Israel set up security measures.
Is she saying South Africa is still apartheid? Because it is still quite segregated, but it's not apartheid anymore. Okay.
After the numerous bus bombings in 2000 and set up checkpoints, which they got very insulted by. But it's the same way that airports now require security after 9/11, reasonably so. So it is taking security precautions. Secondly, we have 3 Arabs, and if I'm not mistaken, Muslims currently sitting in the Knesset. Does that sound like apartheid
Let
to
me
you?
quote the Israeli defense minister and how they view
rights.
Palestinians. He said that we are fighting against human animals, that our soldiers will not be accountable for anything. There will be no fuel, no food, no water, and Gaza will cease to exist. This is what Yoav Gallant, the Israeli defense minister, has said. This is how they refer to Palestinians.
I think one of the big problems,
this is beyond apartheid.
I think one of the
South Africa was made worse. You're a fucking retard. Hang on. You're called the Juminati. Why are you in my chat? Fuck off. Hang on. Like, just take a minute, okay? Just. Right now, people are soying the fuck out because what, like 20 or 30 white people die a day in a country with a lot of crime? Die a year? So yeah, it's a year. It's like less than 100 people die a year in this pretty populated country with a lot of fucking crime. Compared to what? Like the amount of fucking police massacres of peaceful protesters compared to fucking the forcible relocation of like millions of people in the space of a couple of decades because they were making the fucking cities too black? Like, fuck off. Any illusion of stability that people had under apartheid was built on a lie. It was built on fucking just pushing the pain and suffering like under the carpet. Like, how stupid. Anyway.
Big problems leading up to this has been...
That's not apartheid. That's
well, let me just say what I think.
That's the language of ethnic cleansing and genocide, beyond apartheid.
Let me make the point I want to make, which is I think one of the problems leading up to this...
How is it apartheid when you treat citizens and non-citizens differently? Because you just look up the... it doesn't need to be your... They don't need to be your citizens for you to exercise the crime of apartheid over them. Just look up the law. You can look up the international law on apartheid. It's there. You don't need to... sorry. As well as me just saying to go read a book, I'm also going to say that there's nothing in there that says it needs to be happening to your own citizens to be apartheid. You can still do apartheid in an occupation. Anyway.
Is that Benjamin Netanyahu, for political expediency to remain in power, has packed his cabinet with a bunch of right-wing headbangers whose rhetoric actually was incredibly incendiary and incredibly unhelpful. So I do think that. Actually.
And you know what? Even if you're right, unfortunately, the narrative that it's about the land, I'm sorry.
Apartheid is defined in international law. Yeah, it's a crime. Yeah. The problem is that there isn't much case law, but that just means it's open to a lot of interpretation, which is why a lot of legal organizations and human rights orgs have decided that Israel is doing that crime. Especially after the nation state law. I think that was kind of like the nail in the coffin. But it was, yeah, people have been saying this for decades. Convention on the Suppression and Punishment of the Crime of Apartheid. Yeah.
The Hebron massacres in 1927,
Whoa,
1929.
Hebron.
That was not about Israel. It is about the murder of Jews all over the world. National Jihad Day that I had to worry about.
I mean, again, not that it was justified, but it was to do with Israel. It was to do with the it was over the fact that the Palestinians were not going to get a state that had majority rule like they wanted, like every other Arab country was going to get. That was why. That was why there was rioting in the 20s. Not that it was justified. It was also anti-Semitism and all that shit. But oh, fuck. The Hebron massacre was brutal. It was really bad. They were like fucking. They were, yeah, like they killed women and fucking babies as well. Yeah, and they looted a lot and like tortured a lot of people. Yeah.
Being in Manhattan last Friday was not about.
I think some people had their fucking hands cut off and shit. Yeah.
You mean the day where we had a protest where thousands of New Yorkers came out? That's not a national day of jihad. You're talking about a national day of jihad.
Let me ask you both. All right.
For her life, who was killed in America? Who was killed? A 6-year-old Palestinian boy was killed in Chicago. Was stabbed 26 times.
That was appalling. It was appalling.
26 times.
Yeah, Nadine,
and you're talking about being afraid for your life. I'm constantly afraid for my life as a Palestinian
I can say to those examples you just gave, they are appalling. Appalling. But I also find it very dispiriting that you can't just take a moment to say what happened to the people in Israel on October the 7th was also appalling.
But it came out of her mouth. She wants the Zionists dead, so how is she supposed to condemn it?
It would not have happened had Israel not initiated this, and you know this from the beginning. I think we always need
Israel
to go back
did nothing
to
that warranted what happened on October the 7th. Nothing.
Israel?
Nothing. The scale of that terror attack is like saying that America brought 9/11 on itself. I remember people saying that in the streets afterwards.
I think she
and that
was
equally repellent to me. A terror attack is a terror attack is a terror attack. What Hamas did that day was unconscionable.
We have
anyone with an ounce of humanity has to say that.
Anything that Palestinians do.
Destiny is live. It's interesting watching the viewers change over time. Oh, okay. Listen, it's all good, you know. He wants to leech my community. He wants to be the Lorna Box waiting room for tomorrow. That's all good, you know. Let him do it.
To defend themselves will always be categorized as a terrorist attack because this is the position that the world has put us in.
Right,
I'm not responding to your questions.
I have a question. When was the last time Palestine had full sovereignty over the land? Give me a date or even a year that Palestine had their own government.
I'm not going to engage with genocide deniers. If you
want sorry. Get the IDF chatters out. Yeah, fuck off. You can go watch the... Why does this guy keep fucking calling me? Fuck off. All right.
question for me because she wants to be a child. How are you an attorney? God, can you ask her when did Palestine have full sovereignty over the land?
When did Palestine have full sovereignty?
When did full sovereignty? And I see that you're taking your talking points from her.
Well, you don't want to talk to me.
It's a question.
So he has to do.
You don't have to answer
it.
Do
you want to answer me? And stop being a child? If you have a Jew in court, are you not going to represent them as an attorney?
This has nothing to do with Jewish people.
No, it does.
We actually have Jewish people protesting on the streets of New York City.
Yeah, but hang on.
In defense of Palestine.
Okay, let's not all shout over each other, but it has everything to do with Jewish people when Hamas's stated intent is to wipe Jewish people off the face of the earth.
I'm not the spokesperson of Hamas.
No, but
I don't
you
know
should be able to say that's wrong.
This conversation, that's all you're talking about.
You're defending
no, I'm here to flip the narrative and make sure that people know that this government is funding Israel to the tune of $10 million a day, $3 billion a year, and they're asking for an additional $14 billion in aid.
Okay.
The bombs that are being manufactured by U.S. companies are what's being dropped on Gaza. The world is watching a genocide happening and is not doing anything about it. So the most important thing for me to do right now is to stop this genocide. And
The fucking Israeli woman, the terrorists stole the money. I think, so people have said that the water pipes that they used to make rockets were from humanitarian aid. That's not true. I think they were old water pipes that were out of use. But we do know that, you know, Netanyahu allowing Qatari money to go into Israel, saying that, like, at least if we're looking over it, we can know it's just for humanitarian stuff. Western intelligence officials have now said that they believe some of that funding was being siphoned in to weapons manufacturing. Yeah. So that Qatari money that Netanyahu allowed to go to Gaza, some of it does seem to have been siphoned off to weapons manufacturing. Yeah.
About Hamas are not going to do that.
Okay.
For the attack on October 7th. Yeah.
Condemning the genocide of the Palestinian people and condemning the UK and US governments that we live under, that I pay taxes to, that are killing Palestinian people every day. And the UN already said that Gaza would be unlivable by 2020. The UN had already said that most of the hospitals in Gaza leads to...
You should read the criticism of your apartheid video. Didn't I respond to this? 31 comments. Fuck it. This is Beast Process did the segment on whoa. Edit Lamau, this video is a year old. I'd need to remember what my research was for this video. It's been a while. Who knows? Yeah.
Of the healthcare facilities are not being able to provide.
Today,
are not able to.
I think it's wrong.
Oh, is this is the quote about the Gaza pullout? I don't use this quote because I don't like using this kind of about freezing the peace process and the disengagement from Gaza, the formaldehyde quote. Because I don't really know the context of it, and I don't know if it says that much about if how much this was considered as part of the plan. Yeah, I don't know.
So it's not just the airstrikes and the missiles that are going to kill people. The siege and blockade has been...
We can say, like, the reasons for the Gaza pullout, there are more obvious reasons, right? There's like they're like the demographics, they said that out loud. They didn't want to govern that many Gazans. And security was another reason. I feel like that's but the only thing it wasn't, and we know it wasn't, was like a good faith endeavor to say, hey, look, we're interested in giving you statehood. That's not what it was about. Because why the fuck did they because they took 8,000 settlers out of Gaza in the same year that they put like 13,000 into the West Bank. I'm like, okay. Wait, was this from Forethought? Is that what you guys are saying? Is that who we're talking about? Oh yeah, Forethought. Oh, the blockade. Yeah, Forethought seems a bit weird. I don't know. But he came and spoke to me and he was like quite quiet. So I don't know.
killing
But
people,
you should
and it
be
will
able,
continue.
Nadine.
He was just asking me some questions and he fucked off. But apparently, people are complaining about him, like trying to fucking call for ethnic cleansing and shit. I have no idea. Unhinged, but a beta. Interesting. Or whatever.
You should be able to say that that is all wrong, which I believe it is wrong.
He's a Johnny.
And you should also be able to say that what happened on
A
October the
Johnny.
7th was wrong. A human being who cares equally about the lives of all human beings would be able to say that
I do
both
care
those
about
things
the
are wrong.
lives of all human beings equally, and that's why exactly I believe that in order to preserve human life, you must end the siege on Gaza.
Tico Suave with the $5 base learner box. Thumbs up. Whoa, base. Nice one. Thank you.
You must end the blockade. You must end the settler colonization of Palestine.
Listen, it's
Free
a
Palestine from Hamas.
it's a passionate debate, and I understand why emotions run high.
Bro.
I appreciate you both coming in. Thank you very much indeed. Come back. Let's continue the debate. You only get to peace in these things, I can promise you, by thrashing these things out. People that hate each other have to come together and they have to try and find places of compromise.
White man's
Otherwise,
burden.
you never
Peace.
get to
Pierce.
peace. 70 years has
Peace.
been going on.
Morgan.
70 years.
You need justice to get peace.
You need justice
and we
and you
need
need
terrorists
compromise
outside
and
of
you need both sides.
It's just, they're just such propagandists. It's like, we need justice to get, we need decolonization to get peace. I think I'll find we need to get rid of terrorism to have peace. Like, fucking hell. Bro, it must be so difficult being a partisan. Like, or actually, no, boring. It's easy to be a partisan. You just memorize your script and that's, yeah. Fuck me.
To acknowledge when bad things happen, you can say that is unacceptable. On October the 7th, if any tiny part of you says that was acceptable or there's a reason for it, I can't have that. But thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. Thank you both very much indeed.
Wow. Was he about to say that was not on? I don't know. Pierce is he's an interesting person. I don't know. Like I like it that he's getting all these people on though. It's like, it's good to watch. Stimulating. That's what we say. Channel 5 video next. Are you pro-Israel? No. Not in the way that most people would identify pro-Israel. Probably if you're a tanky, I'm pro-Israel. Yeah. Or if you're like a Hamas guy. Like I do think Israel should be allowed to exist in some form. Like even in a one-state solution, I think it should be allowed to exist as a nation. But I don't know. So I guess that makes me pro-Israel to some people. How is Beast holding up? I think he's fine. He was in the comments of my civil rights video, memeing away. What do you mean, even in a one-state solution, just one state and it's Israel? No, as in like a binational one state, as in like both groups have like a guaranteed level of representation in the state, in the single state. That's what binational state means. I don't know how that. Some people say that's like a federal thing. Some people say that's like two national assemblies. Some people say, yeah, that's like there's a different. There's lots of different interpretations of that. I don't know. If it was federal, the fucking gerrymandering would be absolutely insane. Like, I don't know how it would go, but we're a long way away from that. And also, I don't advocate for that kind of stuff generally because it's not really the right place and time to be thinking that far ahead, to be honest. Especially if Palestinians don't really agree on it. Different cultures, yeah. In one province, we have had 17 political assassinations in 10 months. You can't say South Africa is not worse. What, because of political assassinations? How many fucking massacres have you had in South Africa, like, under apartheid? How many deportations and forced removals did you have in South Africa under apartheid? What the fuck are you saying? Fuck off. And the fact that, like, 90% of the population had no representation. Like, that's a problem. Sorry. Okay. Okay. I want to read this thing. I want to read this thing about the fucking binational one-state solution that was offered in the 20s. I want to see how legit it was. So we're going to read... Oh, God, which one was it? It was an 8-page one. Oh, here. Ooh. I think it's only mentioned this paper. This paper is talking about something else, but yeah, I think... British mandate offers from before the 30s. I don't think that gets spoken about that much. Even in the books, they're only referenced in passing a lot of the time. Like I saw this referenced in Pape's book. But I didn't know what the fuck it meant. Okay, alright. Also, this stream is probably going to end fairly soon because I have to do video stuff afterwards. So if you're planning on big donos and subs, chat, you should do it now. Chat. You should do it soon. So you have how much time left, and I'll read them all before I fuck off. Hang on, have I missed any? Sothro, I got all those. Yeah, okay, cool. Oh. Jabotinsky's priority plan for Palestine. One of the very solutions which has been repeatedly proposed for the Palestine problem during mandatory times was that of political parity. Parity means that irrespective of the relative numerical strength of the two nations, the Jews and the Arabs, the government of the country, cabinet, parliament, administration, etc., should be run on a 50-50 basis. The earliest published parity proposal for Palestine was made at a conference of the Ashdut HaAvoda Party at Sharod in 1924 by Shlomo Kaplansky. Kaplansky proposed the setting up of a House of Representatives which would be based on proportional representation and a Senate in which the principle of parity would be established. Whoa. The idea went through various metamorphoses. It was advocated by Dr. Chaim Weizmann. This was the guy who was one of the original guys of the Zionist movement, wasn't he? He was the one who like drummed up went up and gathered a lot of European support for the Zionist project. Yeah. Okay. Chaim Weizmann. Okay. In the years 1930 to 37, and half-heartedly supported by the Mapai Party in the same years, the British Colonial Office seriously considered it in connection with the proposed Legislative Council in the years 1931 to 35. However, it was raised at the London Roundtable Conference in February to March 1939 as one of 6 proposals by the Colonial Secretary, Malcolm MacDonald. It was rejected out of hand by the Arab delegation. Whoa. But I thought they were willing to accept this as in the 20s. I don't know why they changed their minds on that. After the Roundtable Conference, parity remained a proposal which was raised only by the stubborn binationalists within the Jewish community of Palestine. This paper proposes to discuss a hitherto unpublished parity plan for Palestine, which was suggested by Vladimir Jabotinsky at the end of 1922. One might wonder how the most extreme Zionist, as far as national claims went, he who had called for the conquest of Palestine by the Jews during the First World War and was later expelled from it by the British administration, should have advocated an idea which was commonly associated with the binationalists, the most modern Zionists. Neither Jabotinsky's own autobiography nor his elaborate biography by Joseph B. Schechtman mentions this plan and the events which led to it. All the published accounts of Zionist development during this period tell us of Jabotinsky's disenchantment with both Sir Herbert Samuel, the Jewish High Commissioner to Palestine, and to a lesser extent with Dr. Weizmann, president of the Zionist organization. The former he accused of being the initiator of the Churchill White Paper of June 1922, which was seen by most Zionists as a whittling down of the Balfour Declaration, and the latter he accused of timidity in the Zionist reaction to the apparent British change of policy towards the Jewish national home. Okay. Where was I? Jabotinsky's struggle was directed mainly against the Zionist acceptance of the British policy. He had wished to see the staging of strong protests in both Palestine and London, but instead he found his colleagues feeling too weak politically to stand up to Britain. This dissatisfaction with Zionist policy finally led to his resignation from the Zionist executive on the 18th of January, 1923. There are three main factors which should be mentioned as a background to the Jabotinsky's constitutional plan. The first was the proposal, included amongst the previous provisions of the Churchill White Paper, that a legislative council be established in Palestine. The main aim of which was to pacify the Arabs who were unwilling to accept the mandate. Okay. So Churchill offered a legislative council, okay. The idea of the Legislative Council had been raised by the Colonial Office on the basis of proposals made by Sir Herbert Samuel in August 1921, 3 months after the disturbances of that year. The Zionist executive discussed the subject at some length, and though the Zionists were not enthusiastic about the prospect of being a small minority in such a council, the general opinion was that the Zionists had better not oppose British policy because it was generally believed that the British were determined to set up the Legislative Council even in face of Zionist opposition. As a result, the Zionist executive was to accept the White Paper in June 1922. As a member of the executive, Jabotinsky was one of those to accept the new policy, though he later claimed that the decision had been rushed and ill-considered. Okay. Before the publication of the White Paper, Jabotinsky had come up with a proposal which today would seem to be the incarnation of moderation, but at the time appeared to be extreme even to his Zionist colleagues. On 16th of March 1922, Jabotinsky wrote to the Zionist executive some of his ideas on the proposed Legislative Council. Though he claimed that the setting up of a legislative council was in opposition to international law, as it was precluded by the terms of the Balfour Declaration, he did make a positive suggestion in the event that the council was unavoidable. He proposed that the Legislative Council should include 10 British officials, 14 elected Arabs, 2 elected local Jews, and 4 members chosen by the Zionist organization. Weird. This would mean that the official members, together with the Jews, would have a majority, and Jabotinsky believed that this would prevent the Arabs passing any legislation opposed to the interest of the Zionists. On March 1922, Leonard Stein, the political secretary of the Zionist executive in London, wrote to Jabotinsky, "The menace of an Arab majority over the Legislative Council is a serious one. I rather doubt, however, whether we can deal with it by suggesting that the Jewish agency or the Jews of the diaspora generally should have direct representation." The second and third factors are interrelated. The one concerns the fear that Britain might still decide to withdraw from the mandate or the Balfour Declaration. The second concerns the setting up of an Arab federation. If the British left Palestine and an Arab federation were set up, Palestine would most likely become part of this federation. There are a few reasons why the Zionists feared that Britain might decide to leave Palestine. Though the mandate was approved by the League of Nations on July 24, 2022, British public opinion and many British parliamentarians were not happy about Britain's new responsibility, which was shown by the disturbances of May 1921 to be a costly and thankless one. The fall of the Lloyd George government in Britain and the upcoming to power of the Conservative government of Bonar Law. Bonar Law. Bonar Law. This guy. Bonar Law. Do you think he was hard on crime? Oh, shit. Was another reason to fear. Jesus Christ. What are his thoughts on the penal code? Anyway, an anti-Zionist campaign by the press magnate Lord Northcliffe following a visit to Palestine did not add to British enthusiasm. Oh, sorry. The Conservatives were known to be less enthusiastic than their predecessors about both the Balfour Declaration and the mandate. Okay.
Loner box.
The Arab Federation idea is one which has risen risen continuously since the end of the Ottoman rule. Both King Faisal and Emir Abdullah were among its supporters, obviously hoping to rule over such a federation. But there were also various Arab nationalist groups advocating it. One such group of Syrian Arabs had met with a group of Zionists headed by Dr. David Eder, head of the political department of the Zionist executive in Palestine, in March 1922, when it still hoped by them that with Zionist support, the mandate system for the Middle East might be defeated. Though nothing came of this Arab-Zionist encounter, the idea of the federation remained topical throughout 1922, and the subject was raised several times at meetings at the Zionist executive. Jabotinsky, on November 9th, 1922, at the 74th meeting of the Zionist executive, Jabotinsky called for an official Zionist stand to be taken with regards to the idea of an Arab federation. 2 weeks later, at the 83rd meeting of the executive, Dr. Eder raised the subject again. The Arabs would be prepared to give us a Balfour Declaration of their own if the Zionists gave them moral and material support for their national regeneration. This would mean that we should look forward not to a Jewish commonwealth, but to a Palestinian commonwealth. But we should have, as a basis of the Entente, the unrestricted right of immigration. At present, Jewish immigration was too small to enable the Jewish population in Palestine to keep pace with the Arabs. Hence, Dr. Eder thought that the only solution was a pact with the Arabs for building up a common state. Okay. The human shield argument is an Israeli IDF talking point. None of the human rights organizations recognize it to be true. That is not true at all. I just read the Red Cross, which were kind of impugning Israel for a lot of their efforts in 2008, said that like Hamas had frequently used civilian infrastructure for their stockpiles. Hamas have bragged about getting their civilians to go on rooftops that were on top of military targets. They bragged about it. They said it was like the fucking whatever, the fighting heart of the martyrdom of people. Yeah, fuck. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it is real. What are you talking about? The response to Dr. Eder's proposal was generally negative, and Jabotinsky, Hamas have done that since the origins. Even in their very first years, they controlled, I think, like almost half of all the mosques in Gaza through the works of their charity organization, and that was where they smuggled weapons and stockpiled. Yeah. The response to Dr. Eder's proposal was generally negative, and Jabotinsky clarified his own position as to what the Zionist attitude should be. Jabotinsky considered it premature to consider the question of a possible new partner in Palestine. If they, the Zionists, accepted the ideas outlined by Dr. Eder, they would be accused by England and France of being intriguers. Jabotinsky clarified his own position as to what the Zionist attitude should be. Jabotinsky considered it premature to consider the question. Oh, I already read that. At the 91st meeting of the executive on December 8th, Leonard Stein raised the possibility of the reuniting of Palestine with Transjordan. Transjordan had been broken off from Palestine the previous year to provide the Emir Abdullah with a realm. The Balfour Declaration was no longer to apply to it. Oh yeah, this is why the Ergon had the map, which was Palestine and Jordan, would all be the Jewish state. That's why fucking Smotrich still uses it on his fucking symbol. When he was doing that talk. Oh. Mr. Stein delivered a report upon an interview he had with Mr. Philby, the British advisor of Emir Abdullah. Mr. Philby said that the present situation in Palestine could not be maintained indefinitely owing to the opposition of the British taxpayer, and it was therefore necessary to prepare for a change of regime, and it was advisable to do this before the government actually announced its withdrawal from the country. The Arabs would approve of the Balfour Declaration if they were granted the same rights of self-development as they had in Mesopotamia, but they were totally opposed to any idea of ultimate domination by the Jews. He looked forward to the union at a later stage of Transjordan, with Palestine in an independent state under an Arab emir, and if the Jews would agree to this plan, the Arabs would recognize the Balfour Declaration and give the Jews safeguards. Interesting. Once again, the general reaction at a meeting was negative, but Jabotinsky picked the idea up. He did not believe that peace was politically feasible with the Arabs. On the other hand, he firmly believed that England would always remain in Palestine. But he was at the same time of the opinion that the executive must formulate its demands concerning the guarantees it would demand in case the government or the circumstances would force it to negotiate for a complete political understanding with the Arabs. They would not give the Arabs any real power by agreeing to the creation of an Arab emir, as they would have a guarantee in the form of a Jewish chancellor. Another guarantee would be a 50% control in the legislative, and finally, a Jewish legion. He quite realized that it was doubtful whether the Arabs would at present accept such proposals, but that would only prove what he had always maintained, that a political agreement containing real guarantees for the Jewish national home was at present impossible, and that the question, therefore, was one of power. There's been a caller in the waiting room since I started. Yeah, but I've spoken to them already. I don't know if... Okay, I'll let them in at the end. Fuck. Sokolov felt that Jabotinsky's proposal would only ruin Zionist relations with the British government and pointed out that in a discussion which he and Weizmann had had with Sir Herbert Samuel in 1916, a similar idea had been discussed and rejected. Jabotinsky answered that his scheme was an argument to show England that she must remain in Palestine. It is in this context that we must now return to Jabotinsky's parity proposal of December 29, 1922. In the new scheme, Jabotinsky took note of Sokolov's criticism, and there was no mention of an Arab emir at the head of an independent Palestinian state, nor was there to be a Jewish legion. The plan, which was sent to members of the executive and to Kol Kitch, Dr. Eder's successor as the head of the Zionist political department in Palestine, envisaged the continuation of the mandate under Britain, but that at the same time, the international administration of the country should be handed over to the local inhabitants and the Zionist movement. In any cabinet, at least half of the ministers shall be appointed with the consent of the Jewish agency, which should not necessarily imply their being Jews. Should there be a parliament, it shall consist of a chamber and a senate. The chamber shall be elected by all citizens of both sexes who can read and write in any language. Note that this put the masses of illiterate Arabs at a disadvantage, the author. Oh, really? Jesus Christ. They wanted to do like fucking Jim Crow shit to the Arabs. No. Literacy tests. The fucking bane. All right. The Senate shall be constituted on the American federal basis, adjusted to Palestinian conditions. It shall represent the four elements participating in the reconstruction of the country. Yeshuv, Muslims, Christians, Jewish agency. Each of the four bodies shall be represented by an equal number of senators. The three communities, the Yishuv, the Muslims, and the Christians, shall be constituted upon a fully developed millet, system of inner self-government with rights of self-taxation. The armed forces shall consist of an equal number of Jewish and Arab companies under separate headquarters sections. In a supplementary note, Jabotinsky added, both the administrative and legislative apparatus of Palestine must be so organized as to make it constitutionally impossible for the Arabs to pass any measure against the will of the Jewish element. For this purpose, my scheme proposes a 50-50 proposition in the government and in at least two of the chambers. At least of the two chambers, sorry. 50-50 proposition, yeah, this is what I heard. I think the other government would be just all Arab, yeah. I have given the most careful consideration to all remarks made against my scheme in our discussions, but they have only confirmed my conviction that there is, and there can be, no other way to ensure within the limits of human provisions the constitutional inviolability of such rights as appear indispensable for the attainment of the aims of Zionism. The system of equal representation in the Senate for communities of different numerical strength is sanctioned by America's example, and it would be strange to call it unjust. My 50-50 scheme with regards to troops, the author, is so far from being extremist that it represents an exact replica of the plan proposed by the High Commissioner and accepted by the Colonial Office in 1921, but eventually abandoned under our own pressure after the Jaffa pogrom. Oh, there was a pogrom in 1921. I knew there were riots. I didn't know there was a pogrom. That plan foresaw the local army composed of an equal number of Jewish and Arab companies of equal strength. In a personal letter to Cole Kitch dated 31st of December 1922, Jabotinsky added the following option to his plan. Personally, I don't believe in an agreement with the Arabs at present. It is impossible to come to terms with a disorganized crew, however decent the individuals to whom you talk. They may be repudiated tomorrow by their own mobs, but it is obvious that we must have a constructive program in case we are asked what our terms are. Damn. Damn. The particles. All right. Nothing came of Jabotinsky's proposals, nor were they ever mentioned again. Yet they remain a bit of a puzzle despite Jabotinsky's own explanation. 4 years earlier, in December 1918, the Council of the Jewish Yishuv in Palestine discussed the proposals which the Zionists would bring to the peace conference in Paris. Dr. Joseph Lurie, who later became a member of Brit Shalom, the society which advocated a binational solution to the Palestine problem during the years of 25 to 33. Brit Shalom. Okay, let me look at that. There was one that the British actually wanted to implement as well. That's what I want to know about. Raised what appears to have been the first parity proposal for the Legislative Council of Palestine. At the time, Jabotinsky had spoken against the idea on the exact lines which could have been raised against his own plan 4 years later. Dr. Lurie made the following proposal, a Jewish Sejm, a Polish word for parliament. Oh, same, it's pronounced, isn't it? A Polish word for parliament. On the one hand, an Arab Sejm on the other. Both these Sejms will send delegates, 20 from each side, to form the country's parliament. But let us not fool ourselves as to who will be satisfied. One will notice immediately that the proportion is wrong. The Arab delegates will represent 500,000, the Jewish ones coming in the name of 50,000. 100,000 people, both having the same number. I have a better trick. There are 3 groups in the country: Jewish, Arab Christian, and Arab Muslim. And the Zionist organization, the representative of the Jewish people, I also favor agreement with the Arabs. But there is one thing which we cannot give up, that the government will be all ours. There is no nation which will agree, after living in a country for 2,000 years, that another nation will come and multiply in it. We are very sorry about this. Who's saying this? Jabotinsky. There is no nation which will agree, after living in a country for 2,000 years, that another nation will come and multiply in it. We are very sorry about this. I feel like that's a good summary for the whole, oh, why didn't they just agree to the partition plan? Like, fuck off. Yeah. What year was this? Early 20s. Between 1921 and like 23. It's a really funny way to phrase it. Sorry, bro. Yeah. That's how it be. People don't like that. Sorry, bro. We don't have time to wait for the facts. Bro, we don't have time with your fact check. And that's what socialists are like now. Shit. Anyway, that guy, man, that guy's gonna be stuck in my head. No matter how we explain Jabotinsky's changing position on the question of the parity proposal, the fact that he resigned from the Zionist executive on 18th of January 1923 precluded him in the future from personally influencing Zionist policy from within. He's living in your head rent-free, literally. Because of Arab opposition to the mandate and the Jewish national home, nothing came of the Legislative Council proposal which had envisaged the continuation of both. Despite the costs and difficulties, the British remained in Palestine for another 26 years, so that fears in 1922 that the British might leave were, to say the least, premature. Bro, dude, we don't have time. Do you know how fast? So that's completely not what I was looking for, but I didn't know that. So the British offered like a more representative thing in the mid-20s. I think there was one in the mid-20s that apparently, according to Mr. Pape, that the Arabs were reluctant to accept at first, but then they were willing to start negotiations later in the 20s. But throughout the entire period, the Zionists were always against it. I don't think the Zionists ever were in favor of a one-state solution, because I think even this Jabotinsky guy was like a minority within his movement. I need to find that. You did a donut. I know, my cunt, okay? Fuck. Weasel with a tier 1 sub, thank you very much. And Mike Hunt with the 279 Canadian. Take my money, Boxman. Huh, don't mind if I do. So that's one. That's one paper. Okay, well, we'll bookmark that in my Nakba notes. Let me see. Zionist moderates proposing one state in 1922, rejected by both. Fucking, I need to go through the Churchill paper as well, because that was quite similar. He was not a moderate. He was moderate by Zionist standards. That's what they said in the fucking paper. What are you talking about? No, he wasn't moderate by, yeah, the fact that he was like fucking, he really didn't like Arabs. Yeah, okay. I got you. He was a revisionist. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Why did they say, well, they said that this position was moderate, no? Let me fucking find it. The binationalists, the most moderate Zionists. Okay, fuck. That's what I meant. Leave me alone. All right. Obviously, because there were no Zionists who were like, we should just let the Arabs have majority rule. I don't think any Zionists, prominent Zionists were saying that, were they? Oh yeah, but okay, but it was like, it was weird that he had that position because he was like, okay, yeah, I got you, yeah. Okay. And I also need to look up whatever the fuck this was, because this is the one that I don't know that much about at all. The Shalom, fucking Brit Shalom. It was out of character. Okay, got you. Yeah, this Brit Shalom Society. I need to learn about this because I know the British were actually willing to get involved in this as well, but I need to find out exactly where the rejection came from. Because I don't think Arabs were always against this. Let me find you the line in the book I'm talking about, actually. I can just Google it, the PDF, all right? Let's see. PDF. Is it this one? No. I think it is, yeah. Okay, where are we? Let's go. Maybe I should just read this chapter again because I didn't take fucking notes here. So it's somewhere in here about the drive for an exclusively Jewish state. And it's something about the 1920s. It's here. Until 1928, the British government had treated Palestine as a state within the British sphere of influence, not as a colony. A state in which under British tutelage, the promise to the Jews and the aspirations of the Palestinians could both be fulfilled. They tried to put in place a political structure that would represent both communities on an equal footing in the state's parliament as well as in government. In practice, when the offer was made, it was less equitable. It advantaged the Zionist colonies and discriminated against the Palestinian majority. The balance within the new proposed legislative council was in favor of the Jewish community, who were to be allied with members appointed by the British administration. So I'll find 11, okay, and as the Palestinians made up the majority of between 80 and 90% of the total population in the 20s, they understandably refused at first to accept the British suggestion of parity, let alone one that disadvantaged them in practice, a position that encouraged the Zionist leaders to endorse it. A pattern now emerges. When in 1928, the Palestinian leadership, apprehensive of the growing Jewish immigration into the country and the expansion of their settlements, agreed to accept the formula as a basis for negotiations, the Zionist leadership quickly rejected it.
Loaner box. You smarmy,
The Palestinian uprising in 1929 was the direct result of Britain's refusal to implement at least their promise of parity after the Palestinians had been willing to set aside the democratic principle of majoritarian politics. which Britain had championed as the basis for negotiations in all the other Arab states within its sphere of influence. So apparently there's a one state here that Arabs are willing to negotiate, but Zionists reject it in 1928-29. I don't know. Can I just... Is he... Rubenstein? He's quoting someone else in a... Okay. So I don't know. Oh, Z. Why do you think the left is incapable of seeing reality in this issue? How do you feel about the destabilization of the Middle East thanks to this? Destabilization of the Middle East? I have no idea. I have no idea what's going to happen there. Fuck. The left is incapable of seeing reality because it's like the same reason the right are. Once you are an ideologue, you pick a team and you stick by it, and anything that falls out of what the team wants, not good, not good. It's all bad. I think most people are like that, though. Most people are not motivated to their positions by, like, fact. People don't care that much about facts. People care about stories. And once you've got your story, there are facts that support that story, which are good, and there are facts that don't support that story, which are bad. That's it, basically. Inconvenient. Thanks for the huge dono baller. Okay, shall I just get this book and find out what it's saying? Shall I just get this book? Because this is the only thing I can see that seems to be showing Arab leaders willing to accept something that still disadvantages them, but would have led to a better solution than what the fuck we have now. Maybe. So I just buy this book for this one citation because who's it by? Eliakim Rubenstein. People keep saying Pape's not... there are some Pape quotes that I don't really trust, but I just want to find... Does this book even exist? Wait, what? Where is it? I can see it's only leading me to the footnotes. What is this? That's not it. Bro. Is it Hebrew? I don't know. Oh. It's in Hebrew. Okay. God damn it. Well, surely there's a translation. Oh. Arabs and Jews. Arabs and Jews in the mandatory. Ugh. I don't know. A fresh view on the historical research. Maybe I'll find... I don't know. I just can't find that much detail about that period. I don't know why. Did you read the Benny Morris article in Pape? No, I'm going to read all of Pape, the book, this one. I'm going to read this one, and then I'm going to fucking... And then I'm going to read Benny Morris talking about him. Okay, that's what I'll do. Then we'll explore the rivalry, shall we? You don't even speak Hebrew, bruh. No, I don't. Anyway, I need to do work, okay? And this might be the last day of my intense fucking video essay crusade, so maybe I can stream properly next time. Maybe I can get a fucking routine going. Oh, Chad talking about how to save the child hostages. Sorry, wait, hang on.
Okay, I just had an idea.
I just had an idea. Go on. The third state of the third state solution, Chad Logic. The third arrow.
Why not send a bunch of... Why not go to like a maximum security prison in America, get a bunch of pedos, and launch them into Gaza to find the child hostages? I know that sounds crazy, but if anyone's going to find a bunch of kids in a war zone, it's going to be a pedo. Just think about it. They got the resources. They're sending a bunch of money to Israel as it is. Listen, you've got a plane with a bunch of humanitarian aid on. What's a couple of pedos in the back as well? Chuck them in there. Get them in there. Get them over there. Get it sorted.
Okay. It's crazy, Chad. It's crazy. but it might just not work. Toddley 76 with the $5. Thank you very much. We love you, Boner Locks. Thanks very much. Okay, apparently everyone's really surprised that this fucking German girl died. Okay, wow. Anyway. Who can I redirect you guys to? Can I do that? Do I need to do that? Doesn't really matter. I think Chud Logic's maybe on my list, so let's go have a look. Oh, he's dual streaming now because that's an option. Holy shit. Isn't that quaint? Chat. He's deaf on a list. Yeah, I know, right? Let's put him on one more. Chud Logic. All right. Take care, guys. Destiny doesn't have me like on his list, so I'm not allowed to raid Destiny anyway. That's fine. Take care, guys. We're gonna speak up for the little man anyway. Hey? Hey? All right. See you tomorrow for a longer stream, hopefully. And maybe a video release. Who knows? Okay, bye-bye. Obama.